High five to Andrew Rogers as we start the show off on a Wednesday here. Honestly, I was the most impressed by the fact that they were just able to execute a high five while sprinting at full speed.
I thought so too. I thought, wow, they're having a lot of fun out there.
Yeah, and just the fact that, I know we've all had that moment where we just totally biff on a high five. That one, although, was pretty good for us. And
because normally you'd double swipe.
And I went lefty there, so I was pretty happy with how that went. But yeah, if you're in a dead sprint, I'm just impressed with their level of coordination to be able to execute that. I would be, if I was Tony White, I'd be like, yeah, that's the kind of athletes we have. They can high five going full speed.
Is that something that often gets penalized?
So I haven't seen it happen very often, so I don't know if it gets penalized or not, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he said that, I was like, that's a fair point. If it does get penalized, that messes things up.
Right, because now you're at the 35 instead of a
touchdown.
Zone.
Right, yeah. And so, but I didn't know if it was one of those things where they bring up kind of a fake consequence that actually would be legitimate, or if it was, hey, I've seen this penalized before, you can't do that.
Right, because I looked at that and I thought, wow, when was the last time Nebraska was having this much fun on the football field?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I first thought, not the. I know it bothers a coach because you don't ever want to show up an opponent, and
I don't think that's what they were doing.
And I don't think so either. I think it was just like, dude, can you believe it?
Something
like that. I can't believe we just did that.
It's really similar, I think.
How is that any different of giving them the rounding third as you're running with them? It goes into a category of excessive celebration, would it not?
It would if they threw the flag. I just don't know if that rises to the level that they would actually throw a flag on. I just haven't seen very much of that.
And look, I know they're flag happy in college.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if this was the NFL, I don't think you'd ever see a flag thrown for anything.
For high fiving, yeah.
Although, unless you take somebody's phone who's your personal videographer and do a backflip, that apparently.
Well, they're very specific about props.
Right.
They're very specific about props.
That is true. But in this case, I was just like, I enjoy the energy.
I do. Yeah.
I enjoy.
It'll be fun to watch.
The enthusiasm of this team as they're playing the game. Whether that's something you want them to do moving forward, that's fine.
Yeah.
And if it is like a true penalty and something that gets knocked often, right? For any team's purpose, then a great teaching moment. But I would hope they also said hey, don't do that again. But also wasn't that pretty fun?
Yeah,
wasn't that fun to do?
Or just wait till you get in the end zone.
Right.
Score for me first.
And I think that's what it boils down to is get into the end zone, then high
celebrate,
five, and then come to the sideline.
And if you get penalized for it, then we know, and then we don't do it in the future. But
Tristan Alvano will still put it in the back of the end zone, and we're fine.
You don't want to cost yourself a score, obviously, and they didn't in that case. But it kind of goes. It reminds me a lot of baseball players, right? You have a lot of Latin American players are way more exuberant when playing the game than American-born players. It's a different culture around the sport in growing up in Latin America versus growing up here.
It's kind of like the broadcast.
Yeah, we both played baseball growing up. It's a very buttoned up, play the game the right way, don't show up your opponent, all that kind of stuff.
Unless it's bottom of the ninth inning, you need to run, and you lead off with a double. Yeah. Then you get on second base and you flex on them.
Yeah. But even then, there's some people that would be like, oh, you don't want to show people or whatever. And then you've got Latin American players that play the game with a ton of joy, right? They play a ton of energy, ton of joy. And I think it's more fun to watch because even a Bryce Harper gets a lot of crap for the way he acts on the field. I'm not sure I've ever seen him do anything actually wrong, just things that people don't love necessarily.
Right, rounding third, blowing the pitcher a kiss, that's something that it's I wouldn't really condone behavior like that, but you're not also going to get tossed from the game for doing that.
And that's where there's kind of this line between celebrating and playing with joy versus showing up an opponent, right? Round and throw a third, blowing a kiss, that's showing up an opponent. Going and flexing on second base to your dugout is celebrating and playing with joy, right?
Or the train, or
whatever
the bow and arrow, whatever.
Yeah, whatever the little October postseason thing that they've decided to do. The
Cardinals used to do the pepper shaker.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a fine line, but I think everybody knows what it is, right? to me, this was Nebraska playing with joy and celebrating with their teammates and having a good time.
In the moment.
There wasn't a Purdue player in sight to taunt if they wanted to, right? And so
they were doing that for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate Matt Rule has acknowledged this a little bit, where he says things like, hey, I know my initial instinct is to be old school, but if that helps them play good and that gets them in the right mindset, then maybe I can learn a little bit.
Julie often.
Yeah.
And saying like, hey, Julie's like, no, let him have fun.
Yeah.
Like,
Julie's
or
like,
you
hey,
need to have more fun.
Quit being a jerk. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When you body surf, like, that's fun.
Yeah.
You need to have more fun.
And that is, again, that's celebrating. It's playing with joy. It's enjoying your team and your teammates versus showing up an opponent. I'm all for playing with joy. Like, what's the point? What's the point of doing all this if you're not having a good time? I mean, it's the same thing with doing these shows, right? Unless you're having a good time, like, what's the point about talking about sports every day?
When was the last time Nebraska was 5-3?
So I think I'm trying to remember. I think there was a year under Frost where they started 4-2 and then collapsed on the way out.
Last time they were 5-3.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. That's a good question.
Mike Riley years.
I know they were 7-0 under Mike Riley in 2016.
Okay, so when they had 5 wins, maybe we just go with that. Okay.
Yeah, I think had 5 wins and a winning record. I think they might have done it once under Frost, but
Nebraska has been abused.
Yeah,
over the course of the past 5-6 seasons, right? Has been abused. So when you're in a moment like this and you're having a season full of fun, you're 4-3 in a football game where this touchdown put you up, was it 14-0, 21-0?
So that was 21-0.
That was 21-0. Your defense has been playing lights out. They haven't been rewarded with a touchdown.
And this was special teams, but it was defensive guys. It was Quentin Newsome.
Right.
Tommy Hill, I think, was the one running with him.
You have takeaways, but they never led to points. Now, maybe your offense.
And they're just now starting to get the takeaways too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're having a lot of fun in this game because Tommy Hill had a pick, right? It was an underthrown ball from Card because he threw it into the wind, but he had a pick. So Tommy Hill gets his pick, right? Then Tommy Hill blocks a punt, right? So Tommy Hill is all excited. And Quentin Newsome catches it on the run. That hardly happens.
Right. Yeah.
That hardly happens in football. Normally it's a guy that just falls on it and your offense takes over from that spot.
Yeah, or it's a scoop and score even, but to actually just catch it out of the air.
This was in stride, like he was catching a punt, which maybe Quentin Newsome should be catching punts for this team. Ed Foley did speak yesterday. Maybe we can start special teams player of the week on punt returns now. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'm just throwing things out there, whatever. But in stride, he runs it to the house. The two guys high-five each other because they've been in tandem all season. These are the two guys in the secondary that need to work hand in hand because they play the same position, right? So all in all, I really tried to take the approach of, okay, if I saw my team do this, if I saw my baseball team do something, how would I go about it? And I was sort of easy because I'm energy. I'm all energy. And if it doesn't have an effect on the game, like if it doesn't lead to a penalty or in baseball, an ejection or something of that nature, even if it was a warning, I'd be like, all right, whatever, it's a warning, just don't do it again. But if it didn't lead to something greater that impacted the team, I think I'd be okay with it. I think I'd be all for it. And I don't know if I would even address it. So that to me made me realize that Tony White must have seen this before. Because he's not somebody just to say it.
I wouldn't think
he's
so.
Not going to make up a consequence.
Unless it was something that Coach Rule really didn't like and he asked him to address it.
But I think he would have said, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
Not, hey, the offense may have had to come out on the 35-yard line because you could have had a flag thrown on you. So I'm trusting in the honesty that I've seen from this coaching staff from the very beginning, that they wouldn't just make something up like this to diminish their players' joy. they would say it as, hey, that was fun, right?
Mhm.
Ravi, did you have fun doing that?
Well,
hey, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I know you guys pulled something off that is very rare in football to do, but wait until you're in the end zone. Wait until you're back on the sideline. That's why, to me, it was like, hey, he had to have seen this before.
You would imagine. I think the key there is just like, hey, just wait till you get to the end zone. Celebrate, point to your family, high five each other, whatever. Just make sure you score first. Which I can understand that. I think Rule's done a better job of kind of checking himself and be like, okay, does this actually matter? Or is this just my old school mindset? And if it doesn't actually matter, then why am I harping on the guys about it? Which is something I appreciate, because a lot of coaches especially will kind of have these arbitrary rules and the way they like to do things, and they won't admit that that's what it is, right? Which, listen, every coach has those, right? Every coach has, hey, I just want to do this a certain way, whatever. And sometimes it's for a very specific reason because it translates directly to something else. And sometimes it's like, this is my preference, right? And it's okay to have both reasons, right? But don't pass off the preferences as the non-negotiables. If Matt Rule has a preference is like, hey, man, I don't really like the celebrating. Like, just tell your team that, be honest with them and say, hey, that's not really for me. And that's not really how I want to do things here. And guys will respect that. And if they don't, then, maybe they don't have the buy-in, and then you have other conversations, right? But if it's something where I appreciate that he hasn't looked at the high five or the celebrating, or, he's mentioned pointing to family members and stuff in the stands and stuff before. And I appreciate that he's not passing that stuff off as the non-negotiables. They're his preferences, and he's reevaluating his preferences on the fly, it seems like, because he's like, well, if this helps my team play better, why would I not allow it to happen? Now, this is a little different because it happened on the field of play during a play. So I get that, but there's just too many coaches out there that will draw a line in the sand over stuff that doesn't matter. And I guess I just appreciate that Rule doesn't seem to be doing that here. Although the high five thing, it seems like did test him a little bit more.
Just a little bit. And
when it's our time to go play ball, we go play ball.
Until it happens, like until a flag is thrown on that, I'd probably let them keep doing it.
Probably.
Like if it was me coaching, I'd say, well, like that wasn't flagged. Or I'd look it up and be like, has this gotten flagged often? Is this something that would get flagged?
Is it something they even should throw a flag on?
Because I'm with Tony White. I'd rather have 6 points than try to get 6 points.
Absolutely. Especially, the offense has struggled some. Like, you don't necessarily want to put them in that position. Just, hey, go get the points. But no, I think it's a fair thing to bring up if you're Tony White. But I also like in general that they've allowed guys to kind of be themselves and play within their personalities and show a little bit of joy there. Because, again, what's the point of doing all this if you're not going to have a good time?
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
Like, at the end of the day, that's what sports are for, right? To have a good time, to entertain us, to bring us joy in our lives. Like, and there's very few things like it that can do that. I love watching Nebraska be happy when they play football. You know how many years it's been since Nebraska's looked happy playing football? It's been a really long time. And if Nebraska appears to be happy playing football, that makes everybody watching Nebraska play football happier. Like, it's good for the for the whole state.
And actually around the league, around college football as a whole, people recognize that, hey, Nebraska's playing with a different edge this year.
Yeah.
Nebraska's playing with a different fire.
And I know people say this because it's where they're from or whatever, but I believe it about a lot of different teams. College football is a better place when Nebraska's good. It just is. Like, I like I like a Cinderella and a upstart story as much as anybody. That's part of the reason I love the NCAA tournament so much in basketball. But in college football as well, like, I love it when Coastal Carolina was coming up and knocking on people's heads with Jamie Chadwell, right? But I also love when Nebraska and Oklahoma and Michigan and USC and Florida State and all these blue bloods are good at football because it makes the sport feel like the way it's supposed to.
Well, it's kind of like the World Series right now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm with you because I'm probably more on the side of I'd rather have Cinderellas versus
in the pros. I usually do.
And because of this example, I think it fits perfectly to what you were saying. I believe game 3 was it of the World Series. Maybe it was game 1. It was either 1 or 3. 9.7 million people watched it on TV, which was like an all-time low for World Series watchers. I think it was game 1 between the Rangers and the Diamondbacks.
Which ended up being an incredible game.
Which was a great game, right? But you look at it, and you're like, like this is one that like it seemed like a lot of people were interested in, right? Texas and Arizona, not normally here. But then you think about it, and you're like, well, the past World Series included who? The Dodgers, the Astros, the Phillies probably draw a decent crowd.
The Braves have a good.
The Braves
have a huge contingent,
right? And so, well, the Braves may be a little more one-off, but they have a big area, like a big population of baseball fans.
Yeah, and I think so for people my age, the Braves are a big deal because every game was on TBS. Like every game when you could come home, it was like the Cubs and WGN. If you had cable, you could watch the Braves or the Cubs pretty much every day. And so I think a lot of people throughout the country became Braves fans or Cubs fans because it's just the thing you could watch all the time. Like before MLB TV, before extra innings, before all that, you had like this nationwide phenomenon in the 90s of Cubs and Braves fans. And the Braves were really, really good in the 90s. So you kind of had that, if you wanted to root for a good team and watch them all the time, the Braves were kind of your option.
Right. So the point I'm making here is there's a difference between your interests and the interests of the population.
Yeah.
And your interests may be, hey, I like Cinderellas, like me. But the interest of the population, instead of 9.7 million, that may have said 13 million or 15 million or something like that, just because you're hitting bigger markets that will just watch that team because that team's from their hometown.
Yeah, you get the casual fan more with the big markets and the bigger teams.
So it goes back to what we're talking about with Nebraska. Like Nebraska doesn't have the big market, right? They come from a small state like us, where it's, hey, people here live, breathe, die Nebraska, but they don't do that anywhere else. However, what people do remember is those great Nebraska teams that won national championships growing up. And so if you are living in New Mexico, if you are living in Tennessee, if you are living in Maine, wherever you're living, you probably remember, hey, Nebraska's a really good football team.
Yeah, the brand.
And once you start seeing them back in the top 25, what's that going to do? It's like nostalgia.
Yeah.
Right? It's nostalgic to see that team like, oh my gosh, they're competitive again. I'm excited to see how far they go. I'm excited to see if they can take that jump, that leap, instead of being in top 25 or like top 24, 25. Now they're like 15, 16. Now they're 9, 10. Now they're 4, 5. Like you want Nebraska to make that leap because all that does is bring back, well, hopefully good memories, but just
depending
memories,
on what part of the country
memories of the past,
Yeah.
right? Memories of, the good old days, as people kind of say it. Think about this for a second, Ravi. If Nebraska wins out, if Nebraska plays on New Year's, not only would they be playing in January, but they could be 24th in the country. They could be 23rd in the country at 9-3.
Oh, I think they'd be higher than that if they're
and that's a chance too. But kind of what I'm saying here is with 3 losses, we may see for the first time in a long time a little bitty number.
Yeah.
Next to Nebraska's name on the broadcast.
I think there's a chance if they go up to Michigan State and win in any kind of convincing fashion that they'll receive votes next week. I don't think they'll be in the top 25, but I think if they go and beat Michigan State in convincing fashion that they'll be on the receiving votes. Like I think we're getting pretty close to that point because you look at, okay, that would be having won 6 of your last 7, the only losses to Michigan, and having won 4 in a row. You'd be in a neighborhood where people are going to start looking at you as a potentially ranked team, which no one was even dreaming about at the start of the season. Like not even a whisper.
People were begging for 6.
Yeah, just a bowl game. Just
6.
And to be fair, I'd still be happy with just 6 in a bowl game. Now there's way more on the table now, so I'm not going to limit them to that. Kind of like Coach Rule talked about the other day. It's like one more. I don't want just one more. I don't want to just win one more game. They got 4 games left. I want to win more than one more, right? But this is a team that did not have externally did not have aspirations of being ranked this year. Externally did not really have aspirations of winning the Big Ten West this year. It was just, hey, let's not be a disaster. let's clean things up a little bit. Let's get to a bowl game for the first time since 2016. Let's maybe just show a little bit of progress. And they've done
Let's create a foundation.
A heck of a lot more than just show a bit of progress. They've shown a ton of progress. And honestly, again, going back to the thing we were talking about earlier, it's actually been fun to watch. And I know, like, I talked to a bunch of people that are Husker fans during games and stuff. We're texting back and forth. Some of it's on Twitter, but a lot of it's just texting with people that I know. And there's some people that are like, man, I really have a hard time watching this team because of all the mistakes, right? And I get that. I totally understand that there's some really sloppy stuff in there. It can be really frustrating.
It's a challenge.
But for me, watching this team overcome all those mistakes has been so much fun. Like, I love the fact that, it does kind of remind me of the 2009 team minus a one transcendent defender like Ndamukong Suh, but where you knew the offense wasn't going to give you a whole lot. But the defense, you just had so much confidence in them. You're like, it doesn't matter where we put them. It does. If the offense gives them anything at all, you feel like you might be able to come away with a victory. And so far, that's what's happened. I understand this is not this team's not going to end up with the same record as that 2009 team, obviously, but they might end up playing in the conference championship game. They might end up playing in a quality bowl game. This is a team that there's way more on the table for them than any of us imagined at the start of the season. And like you said, it's been a lot of fun. Like, Nebraska football being fun is probably the best part about this season so far.
And the parts of last season, 2 seasons ago, 3, 4, 5 seasons ago that weren't fun felt like forever to get through.
Oh, yeah.
Felt like such a job to sit down and watch. But now you look forward to Saturday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the games every week. You know how long it's been since that happened? Like, you kind of look forward to it, and then part of the back of your mind's like, oh, no.
Please don't do it again.
Yeah. Coming up next, we'll set up the show and get to more of Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Welcome back and good morning here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're on AM 590 ESPN Omaha and ESPN Tri-Cities. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts as well. I'm Ravi Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me, and we are getting you ready for a terrific show. We're going to set it up. We're going to set the show up. Get to it. At 8 o'clock, we've got Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. 8:30, we've got our friend Kevin Sjuts from 1011 News in Lincoln. At 8:45, we're going to talk to Jarod Hamilton. He is a Missouri beat writer for Missouri Football, PowerMizzou.com, part of the Rivals Network. And then 9 o'clock through the end of the show, we'll have our very own Avarie Howard join us. Hopefully she doesn't dominate us and Guess Who again.
She will.
Yeah,
and,
she
and
probably will.
Our listenership, just like World Series, if there was a blue blood in it, goes up by the millions.
Yeah,
here in
Avarie's our blue blood here on the program. So that is the show coming up for you here. As I mentioned, we are going to play our Guess Who game at the bottom of the show. We love playing Guess Who Wednesdays, and I'm hoping.
I hope I have one that is gonna throw people off. Like I think I have one, but if it doesn't end up being that, I'm probably gonna cry.
I'm thinking last night and this morning about who I want my guesses to be and who I want my person to be, and I'm trying to like find this line between they have to be well known enough that they actually qualify, and it's not people aren't going to be like, oh, what are you doing, man?
Right.
But also I want it to be challenging enough that you guys don't get it right away. Listen, it's like that fine line we were talking about earlier. You got to walk that fine line coming up. So there's a lot that has been going on in the world of transactions in professional sports over the last couple days. We didn't get to it yesterday, and I'll skip over it for now to get to the other stuff. But James Harden got traded yesterday. Idiotic and a disaster, but we'll get to that later.
The perfect landing spot for him is the Clippers.
Yeah, it really
the Clippers are a disaster.
Yeah, it's a wasteland for former superstars. But we'll get to that in a little bit, or maybe we won't. Depends on how the show goes. But the all three of our teams were involved in transactions last night. The Raiders fired their coach, Josh McDaniels.
Shane, how do you feel about that? He's drinking his Mountain Dew.
I was drinking, so I was taking a.
Hey, what flavor was it?
It's the Voodoo.
Can you name 3?
Can you name 4?
Yes, I can.
Go
But
Red.
I feel pretty good about it. That's what everybody wanted. Every Raider fan. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a Raider fan out there
That like Josh McDaniel?
that like that coach.
My question here is,
I guess that was the only way to keep Devontae Adams.
oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I guess I'm just wondering.
I just wish they would have worded the and it's I'm sure it's probably technical and it's probably over my head because a lot of stuff is. But I just wish they would have worded the press release a little different. I mean, if you're going to fire your coach, you probably want to start working on that now to some sorts instead of maybe after the season. I mean, I mean, I get it. Maybe they can't for technical reasons. I don't know, but maybe just do that. Just, if you don't have a head coach, just maybe make that your priority, number one.
So the Raiders have not had a coach for more than I want to say 4 seasons.
Well, and when you do get a coach, don't and they're going to make the same mistake again, as in they're going to try and hire somebody for 10 years and they're going to pay them like $100 million and it's only going to work for you're going to give them a year or 2 and then it's not going to work and then you're going to try and get out of it for a year or 2 and it's just going to be a disaster for like 4 years.
Do you want to do the Lane Kiffin experience again?
Maybe instead of doing that, do the splash thing and just try and get it done in like 4 years instead of 10 years.
Was John Madden the last coach they had that was longer than 4 years?
No, they had Coach Flores.
So Flores was 6.
Yeah.
Art Shell was 5.
Which was kind of a disaster too, but I love Art Shell. But that's
no, he was good the first time. The second Art Shell was a disaster.
Yeah.
But that has been the only coach that has lasted. So John Gruden lasted for 4 years in from 98 to 2001.
Right.
He is the only coach to spend even 3 full seasons with the team. Or no, Jack Del Rio spent 3 seasons with the team. No one spent more than 3 seasons with the team besides John Gruden since Art Shell 30 years ago.
Is that good?
That's not good. You've got Mike White, who was there for a year and a half. Never heard of him.
Coach White.
Joe Bugle.
Mike White, quarterback?
Joe Bugle.
Joe Bugle was there for 1 year.
No,
not Mike White, the quarterback.
No.
You had Billy Callahan there for 2 years.
Yep.
North Turner there for 2 years. Art Shell there for 1 year.
When was Hugh Jackson there?
Oh, we're getting there. We'll get to Hugh.
Yeah, we're about 3 or 4 down the line.
Art Shell was there for 1 year. Lane Kiffin was there for a year and a half. Tom Cable was there for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Jackson was there for
he
1 year.
Hey.
Hey, 8-8. He's like the highlight of this list.
That's what I mean. Like Hugh Jackson wasn't bad.
He's the high point of this list here. Dennis Allen, 3 years. He went 8-28. Dennis Allen, still a bad head coach, as we learned out here. Tony Sperano.
I'll remember him, Shane.
Half a year. Jack Del Rio, 3 years. Jack Del Rio was 25-23. I mean, he's also a high point on this list. John Gruden, 2 years. 2 years. Let's see. Or no, John Gruden was there for 3 years this last time before he had to retire again. Rich Bisaccia, half a year, and Josh McDaniels, a year and a half. Not exactly the
team seemed to rally around behind Rich. I mean,
they should get him back.
They've already done the whole let's go back.
He was 7-5.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I mean, that is, I think 2 games over 500 is the high water mark of that list.
Is this the team that Brian Flores gets his second chance with?
Ooh, interesting. Probably not. I like Brian Flores. I'd like to see him get a shot
because I thought firing him in Miami was kind of crazy.
I did too, but turns out Mike McDaniels is really awesome.
Good.
Yeah, so
he's really good.
Like both can be true. Like both can be true that Brian Flores probably didn't deserve to get fired, and that Mike McDaniels is an upgrade. Like that is, and that usually doesn't work out that way. But
right,
I mean, I guess good on Miami for getting it right for at least in the hire. Brian Flores would be an interesting one. I still am waiting for, and I don't know if it's going to happen now that he left Kansas City, but I'm still waiting for like the whatever team's finally going to offer Bieniemy a head coaching job.
Well, who's next in line? Like if we're actually going with how coaches have been getting head coaching jobs in the NFL, you have to be a DC, you have to be an OC with a good team before. Ben Johnson would be a likely candidate. Detroit Lions offensive coordinator has been.
That offense is really good.
Doing a phenomenal job since he took over last year.
Did a great job with Jared Goff.
So it wouldn't shock me if the Vegas Raiders interviewed him for that position.
That would be interesting. That would be fair.
And he's 37. So you look at him and you're like, oh my gosh, is he like the next young coach, like the next young great coach that we can form into a long-term miracle scenario?
No, I don't want the long-term miracle scenario because it doesn't ever happen there.
So you want a guy that comes in for 3 years and then bounces?
No, I want. Well, if they can get it done and they can turn it around, I mean, you can turn around an NFL team in a year. Get it done in a year. Well, let's not hang our hats on this 10-year crap.
Yeah, Shane, here's the problem though, is everything else has to run well in the organization to get it done in a year. And that's not really what the Raiders do.
You asked me the same question last year.
I mean, that's the problem there. Because they fired their GM as well. Josh McDaniels and the GM both got fired last night. Which they've gone through GMs about as quickly as they've gone through coaches as well. Mike
and
Mayock
quarterbacks.
was there.
I mean,
Travis brought up Bieniemy's name again and said nobody's going to give him the head coaching job. I actually tend to agree with that. If he would have stayed in Kansas City and they were super successful like they are, maybe then he would have. But since he went and took a different OC job, when he first did that, I didn't know if it was like hey, somebody pushed him out of Kansas City, or if it was, hey, I'm trying to do this somewhere else.
I think he was trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah, to make a name for himself or for people to take notice. But Bieniemy has not done it in Washington. And we saw Washington sell at the deadline yesterday too, which we can get more into that after the break.
Yeah, we'll get into how our teams made some trades. I think I'm the only one happy this morning with what happened.
Well, I'm confused.
As well you should be.
By the way, Travis says on the YouTube string, why would anybody want to take the Raiders job as a trash organization? Because you get paid. He's going to get paid $26 million for the buyout.
It is a trash organization, though. He's not wrong there. Coming up next, we will get into more NFL trade deadline here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Ravi, Lulla, and Andrew Rogers with you. We are brought to you by our friends at Big Brothers Big Sisters. It is their mission to support one-to-one mentoring relationships that ignite the power and promise of youth. Go to mentoromaha.org to sign up and become a big, or you can sign up at mentoromaha.org to donate money, to donate tickets to events. You can sponsor events as well, or you can invite bigs and littles to your business so they can learn more about what you do. All of that available at mentoromaha.org. All right.
That coach clip, by the way.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like the Raider organization right now. It's Nick's man up for head coach and for GM.
Yeah, you've had 46 head coaches in the last game.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yep.
Moving on to some of the other NFL trade deadline stuff.
Yeah, two Commanders were on the move yesterday.
On the edge rushers, Montez Sweat and Chase Young,
who is also a beast.
Both.
Let's just sell our two franchise players.
Yeah, not that long ago, they were like the cornerstones of this rebuild for the Commanders.
Did the Commanders not just tag Chase Young too?
I think they did. I'm not 100% sure.
So how much of that did the 49ers eat, and how much did the Commanders eat?
Let's see. Chase Young.
Well, while you do that, I'm going to tell you how confused I am about Montez.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Can someone explain to me why the Bears are buying at the deadline? Like that's just the question I want to present. Can someone explain that to me? Because the Bears currently are third to last in the NFL.
Yeah, they're very bad.
I believe they are projected the third overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense. Yeah, because they lost last week. So the third overall pick.
Yes.
Carolina is still projected the 1, and Arizona is projected the 2. So the Chicago Bears make this move, and I'm like, okay, but they gave up a second-round pick. And remember what they did last year at the deadline, giving up a second-round pick for Chase Claypool.
Mm-hmm.
What did that pick turn into, Ravi?
Second round pick last year. Who was that?
That was the first pick in the second round.
Yes.
Because the Bears were the last place team
Yep.
in all of college football, which was also pick number 32 because the Miami Dolphins forfeited their one.
So it was basically a first round
So
pick.
it was the last pick in the first round.
Yeah.
Right? The way, if people want to look at it that way.
Which honestly, early second round picks kind of feel like first round picks anyway.
Right.
I mean,
most running backs
there's not a
go
ton
early second round.
There's not a
Jonathan
ton of
Taylor, DeAndre Swift, people like that.
There's not a ton of difference between like 20 and 40 in terms of quality of player in the NFL.
So I'm happy you brought that up
Yeah.
because Montez Sweat was drafted 27th overall.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears gave up pick number 35.
Yeah,
Montez
currently
right. Montez Sweat is 27.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Bears they're not going to win games with Justin Fields on the bench.
No, and
Tyson Badgett isn't.
To be fair, they're probably not going to win games with Justin Fields on the field either.
No, maybe they win one or two more.
Yeah, but they're going to be a top 5 pick,
right,
one way or another.
So you're looking at anywhere from 33 to 37.
Yeah,
right,
basically
somewhere in that range for the Bears.
Yeah.
So that's still an 8 to 10 pick gap, right, between when Sweat was taken in the first round, which I get it, first round talent versus second round talent, to an early pick on day 2. Well, this goes back into what we were talking a little bit about with Mahomes and the future, right? We kind of joked about it. It was more of a joke than a reality.
Yeah.
But we had said on how you would stick with proven versus trying to get that guy.
Yeah.
Right. Trying to get a Montez Sweat at 35. Now, could you? Maybe.
Yeah.
Like there's a good chance.
And it's easier to find an impact rush end than it is a Mahomes quarterback, right?
But so that's what I mean. There's a good chance you could probably get him there.
Yeah.
But they wanted somebody proven. Here's where I drew the line with issue. If you're going to trade for a guy on a contract year, you have to guarantee me that he's re-signing.
Yeah.
Like
that's not a rental.
It's not a, hey, is he going to re-sign? And do you have the money to re-sign him? Because that's not the problem. The Bears have a ton of cap space.
Yeah.
Like I believe they have like $110 million to spend. So there's a non-issue there to re-sign him. But is he going to want to re-sign them?
Sure. Right.
Like half of this comes down to if the player wants to be in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case right now. A 27-year-old franchise type pass rusher.
Yeah.
A guy that leads. If you look across the board, like Montez Sweat averages or has collectively gotten 11.5 sacks already this year, 6.5 sacks. It's some crazy outrageous number, which was more than Chase Young.
Yes.
Which is why he was valued higher than Chase Young at the moment. Although I still think Chase Young's potential and ceiling, 6.5. Thank you. I knew it was one of those, but still, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's halfway through the season. He's on pace for 13, 14 sacks.
That's a really good pace to be on.
Terrific year.
You look at what Montez Sweat brings, and you're like, great, he could be, the guy that you build this defense around. But is he going to stay? There's nothing that guarantees me that. So you're eating contract money. You're giving up what could be a Montez Sweat next year for a guy that won't even help you this year if he does move on. That's kind of like I feel like I'm in a boat in the middle of the ocean and the motor's off.
Just yelling into the abyss. What are we doing?
Yeah, like asking for help.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the Bears are thinking in this moment. I haven't seen anything, and people can correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen anything that said that, hey, the Bears are going to, take this into a sign and a sign and trade type of deal, right? Where you get him and then it's like, okay, I'm going to sign him to 4 years, right? Yeah. Great. If that happens, perfect.
You would think they would have had to have that conversation with the agent, right? Like you would think.
But again, he could get there, realize that the Bears are a dumpster fire,
and be like, I'm out.
Yeah, well, who cares what the agent says?
Even
if they said we're going to make you the highest paid pass rusher in the NFL, he could still say no.
Which is probably too aggressive for Montez Sweat anyway, right? Like he's good. He's not highest paid pass rusher in the league good, right? He is a very solid pass rusher, having a good year. The other question for me about Montez Sweat and the Bears is, even if you do re-sign him, okay, he's 27 years old, which means his shelf life as a pass rusher, probably one more contract if he gets a 3 or 4 year deal in terms of being in his peak.
Yeah, because then you're going to probably fall into the Khalil Mack.
Yeah, you're like in your early
age
30s,
group.
like maybe you're still effective, but you're not dominant.
But
anymore.
Khalil Mack was so dominant in his prime to where I think he had maybe a longer lifespan.
Yes, but you start looking at guys in their like 30 to 32 year ranges as guys that maybe you don't want to be investing in long term. I guess my question for Chicago is, even if you sign him to a long term deal, does he even match up with the timeline of when you plan to be competitive anyway? Because
probably not.
I can't imagine Chicago being competitive in the next 2 years. I mean, is that crazy?
No, it's not.
Like, because you either have to figure out Justin Fields and what his deal is, or you have to draft a new quarterback, which kind of resets.
And you probably need a new head coach.
Probably need a new head coach.
You need a new vision.
You need offensive line help, which takes a little while to acquire. Like,
who would help though?
Who's that?
Chase Young.
Chase Young would help.
Chase Young was given to the 49ers.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
For a 3rd round pick.
That's less than what Montez Sweat got.
And he's also 3 years younger.
24.
And if you look at Chase Young and you think about, hey, does this match up with the timeline? When Chase Young's 28,
yes,
maybe then the Bears are a playoff team.
Yeah, you can re-sign Chase Young to a long-term deal, and he is right in the sweet spot of where you want to be competitive.
And look, I know Chase Young has had his fair share of injuries.
Yeah, he's been banged up.
He's been off the field, and Sweat has had the better year.
But he's having a good year so far. He's got 5 sacks in 7 games.
You look at the Bears, or you look at the numbers, and Sweat, 35.5 sacks.
For his career.
Yeah, and I'm just going to – this is over 5 seasons. 35.5 sacks, 47 tackles for loss, 195 pressures in 67 games over 5 seasons. Chase Young, 14 sacks, 19 tackles for loss, 109 pressures in 34 games over 4 seasons. Well, that's a huge gap in games for one.
What was the games for Sweat?
67.
Yeah, so twice. It's twice as many games.
Right.
So basically, Chase Young and Montez Sweat produce at the same level per game. It's about a sack every other game, half a sack a game, basically.
Well, still Montez Sweat has the edge because he stayed healthy and played in more games in the same amount of close to the same amount of seasons. Because if you take over the last 3 seasons for Chase Young, it's 6.5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, and 69 pressures in 19 games.
Yeah,
and so that's not very good because he hasn't been on the field.
He just hasn't played a ton,
right? But when he has been on the field, he hasn't been as productive as Montez Sweat. However, when you are healthy, when you are playing fully healthy, because I'm sure Chase Young was playing at 80% in a lot of those games, you're going to have a guy that plays at a little bit more speed, a little bit more hungry.
Chase Young's a freak. I mean, Montez Sweat's a really nice player.
But Chase Young was the 2nd overall pick.
Chase Young's a freak, like an actual freak. He is one of those guys that if you can keep him healthy, which that is a big if at this point, right? I understand why he went for less than Montez Sweat. But that's the type of, like, if you're going to take a swing and you're the Bears, it makes way more sense to swing at Chase Young than it does at Montez Sweat. And I know the 49ers were interested in both, and they're like, oh, Chase Young's going to cost us less, and we think he's got a higher upside. Yeah, we're going to go with Chase Young.
If Travis says Bosa and Young, oof.
Well, and
how about we add Armstead into that conversation?
Armstead, you got Hargrave.
This line went from top 3 to top 2 to top 1.
Yeah, they've got Hargrave, who they signed from the Phillies in the offseason.
The Eagles?
I meant Philly, and I said, the Eagles in the offseason. That defensive line is stacked now. And not just that, but Nick Bosa is going to take a ton of pressure and attention off of Chase Young. You can't double either of those guys.
If Nebraska is considered the sleeping giant in the Big Ten, are the Bears considered the sleeping giant in the NFL?
No, I think
not at all.
I think they're the comatose giant. They're far. They're the Bears. They're the hibernating giant. They're well past sleeping at this point.
The Bears are like Stanford, right? They came into the year with a max of 2 wins, and they're probably going to leave with the surprise win and be a 3-win team.
Coming up next, we got Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi, Lulla. Andrew Rogers here with me, and we are about to be joined by Brian Christopherson on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline. Warhorse Sportsbook is the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. You can go to the casino in Lincoln or now to
you can.
Horseman's Park in Omaha. That's right. You can place your sports bets in Omaha at Horseman's Park, 6303 Q Street. Go check that out. Or the Warhorse Sportsbook Casino in Lincoln. They've got straight bets, parlays, props, live in-game bets, whatever you're looking for in terms of your sports betting needs. Go to warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook or get the Warhorse Casino app for details and the full list of house rules. Joining us now on that Warhorse Sportsbook hotline is Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. BC, how are you this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Good. I'm doing great. My 49ers traded for an impact defensive end. I'm excited about it. Are you? So I know you're a Twins fan. Are you a Vikings fan as well?
Yeah, sadly, I guess. But the Vikings are an interesting team to root for. I shouldn't say sadly. They're a pretty good club usually. I mean, we're a team that's in the hunt. We generally are we are generally around the playoffs or in it. And so they entertain me. They usually disappoint in the end. But yeah, Josh Dobbs was I thought about as good a pickup as they could do under the circumstances. And it's open to maybe get that 6 or 7 seed in the NFC. So we'll see. That's probably the ceiling for the Vikings this year now.
Josh Dobbs. I heard Jameis Winston's name circling. I mean, we brought up Trey Lance's name.
Shafe wanted Colt McCoy.
Yeah, Colt McCoy was Shafe. Like, are we sure Josh Dobbs was like the best available option for the price? Like, that's kind of where I'm like, I don't know, Vikings.
Well, Josh Dobbs worked for NASA or interned at NASA, so he's he's a rocket scientist. So when someone actually says, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do this, he'd be like, oh well, I could anyway. So he can hopefully pick up things very fast. And he was actually playing pretty well for the Cardinals. I kind of went through. It's not like I was following the Cardinals very closely this year, but he was a problem for the Dallas Cowboys in week 3. And I went through and I studied it. And by the end of my 10-minute YouTube clip, you've probably done this with athletes that your teams have acquired before. You'd talk yourself into it. So right now I'm fully on board with Josh Dobbs.
You love to see it. Brian, let's hop into Nebraska. Some interesting stuff I thought from the coordinators yesterday. We were kind of talking about this high five thing with Andrew and I were earlier. I guess not to ask whether or not you like it or don't like it, but I guess when's the last time it seemed like Nebraska was having fun playing football?
Yeah, that's a good point, Ravi. I mean, it's one of those deals where there was a joyous moment in Memorial Stadium that was spontaneous, and so I'm glad that we didn't have a cranky ref who came on the scene and threw a flag there. Tony White's point was well taken, and I actually thought about it in the moment. I know I've seen that called in college games where someone will high step it at the 5 and they'll move it back to the 20-yard line, and it seems like a real killjoy makes that call, but it is in the rule book. And so it was a good teach tape for the coaches. The best case scenario happened. A fun moment happened. Nebraska got away with the fun moment, and we got to write about it and talk about it for a day or two. And then on Monday or Tuesday, you're like, oh, by the way, that could have been a penalty. And so everybody's like, oh, really? Okay. And so then you're allowed to learn from it and hopefully not do it again, even though I think you should be allowed to do it personally. Who cares?
100%.
So I get on official a lot, like, why are we reviewing this and that? But in that moment, in that particular call, good on that crew for either turning a blind eye or perhaps they actually just didn't see it. And so they got away with it. I don't know. You never know.
BC,
it'll be fun to watch.
Obviously, that was a special teams play, but the two that made the play are two keys to this defense. What do you think was the best thing Nebraska took away from Purdue defensively that could not only be a carryover, but also considered a staple of this defensive group moving forward?
The best thing, like the black shirts did.
Yeah.
I thought they made Hudson Card uncomfortable the entire game. If you watch his feet, he never settled into a rhythm. And a big part of it was Nebraska's defensive front, the backers, that the first two levels were just creating enough mischief for him that they never were on time, it didn't seem like. And so ended up working out pretty well because of that. So I would say that, it wasn't like all showed up in the stats, sacks wise and stuff like that, but they caused enough chaos that, when you make a quarterback like a Jitty, he's going to end up throwing a couple picks, which he did. So if they can do that going forward, they can have a lot of success in November.
BC, speaking of the defense, I was really impressed with Isaac Gifford again on Saturday. I know that, like Tommy Hill had the interception, so he got a lot of the headlines. Quentin Newsom had the special teams touchdown, so he got obviously Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week. But it seems like, and maybe I'm misremembering, but it seems like maybe there was a little bit of a hiccup early in the season with Gifford. I'm thinking maybe the Colorado game. Since then, he's been really, really good, especially the last few games as this defense has tightened it up. What have you thought about his play over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think he should.
Oh, did we lose him?
Be an all conference type. Am I there? Can you guys hear?
Yep. Hey, yep. I got you now. Yeah, it sounded like you bounced on us there. Restart that answer for us, BC. Shane, should we reconnect with him?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah, let's reconnect with BC.
Okay, we can do that.
We're having a little bit of internet issues here.
I noticed that a little bit early on.
Yeah.
Like if you watched the stream, those watching on YouTube, you could see that his voice was a little bit before his lips.
Yeah, there's a little bit of buffering issues there.
Maybe we can reconnect, but I want to get that answer.
Because
even us, we kind of struggle with the internet over here too, so it may not even be just BC.
No, it's probably on us if I had to guess. No, that's been one of the things that I really took away from the last few games is just it seems like Gifford's taken his play to another level. And I'm interested to see BC's thoughts on it because
not just him. And sorry to just jump in here, but like Prince Will Umamielen has taken his game to a new level. And now it's a little different because you're talking about a true freshman here.
Yeah.
But it almost seems like the way that one person plays is contagious on another person.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair because you see that a lot, honestly. So you see it a lot more in basketball where somebody will start playing with confidence. You see it a lot with passing, right? If you've got a couple really good and really willing passers on your team, like the passing becomes contagious and people start sharing the rock a little bit more and things like that. You even see it sometimes with shooting if somebody's shooting the ball really well. But yeah, I think you're right. I think some of the defensive play has been contagious. We've got BC joining us on the phone line now, the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline. BC, you there with us?
I am. Sorry about that, guys. My internet's been a little choppy. The goblins must have been chewing on the wires last night.
That's all right.
Could be our thing too.
It very well could be our internet too. So we appreciate you joining us on the phone here. So I was asking about Isaac Gifford, and you were kind of saying you think he should be an all Big Ten selection. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like first team all Big Ten or whatever, but he should be on the list somewhere on those teams because he means so much to a defense that is one of the better defenses in the league. If you said, who don't you want to take away? My first answer would probably be Nash Hutmaker. And then there would be a good conversation because I think Ty Robinson is sometimes undervalued by fans and what he does for this team. Mm-hmm. But Isaac Gifford would be either 2 or 3 on that list. And yeah, if you look at how he played on Saturday, it was sensational. I mean, it was 10 tackles, 2 TFLs. He had a pass breakup. He's just so in control of what he's supposed to do right now at that rover spot. And he can be in so many different spots in this defensive scheme. It's a little bit Doman-esque. Doman and JoJo in 21 had sort of figured out that position, and you just felt like fun things were going to happen, and he was always going to be active on the stat sheet. And I think we've sort of reached that level now with Isaac Gifford, and that's a very fun spot to be in.
BC, you mentioned kind of getting familiar and comfortable with that rover spot. How much of his play the last few weeks, especially, do you think is just him really finding a comfort level with Tony White's defense and his role in it?
Yeah, I think that's a big part for a lot of guys. I think even early on, you saw that they were really enjoying the concepts of the defense, and they were, in the middle of the semester plan, basically, on learning it. They were pretty good, but there was still some stuff they had to compute to their memories and then play out a few times before it looked as good as it has lately. And now I think they're doing higher level stuff. I'm sure the more you understand and the more you have confidence because, hey, I've done this before in a game setting, I can do it again. It just all of a sudden opens up the even more opportunities probably to be more creative. So I think there's a lot of things that play, and it's also the guys playing around them. I go back to Nash and Ty Robinson. We will write down the PFF grades on our website every week because people ask about them. But sometimes I'll see like Nash or Ty get like the 8th or 9th best grade on the defense. I'm like, give me a break. These are the guys who, whatever they're doing, is setting up everybody around them to have fun. So, I think it's guys playing off the guy next to him and what he's doing well. And then they're all finding their niche within the defense that they can excel at.
BC, rotating guys on defense is working flawlessly. And it seems like a great thing in terms of reps for now and the future. But is that sustainable for long-term success in your mind in terms of chemistry building and getting comfortable with the same 11 guys on the field?
Yeah, I think you can do it, Andrew, because they're proving you can do it this year. Every year is going to be its own animal, of course, because some people are going to leave, this year. Some guys are going to decide, I've been in college 5 years or whatever. It's time for me to take my shot at the NFL. You have a few guys who are just seniors anyway, like Quinton and Reimer and some guys like that, so that they'll be gone. But I think this staff, Tony White in particular, thinks it's very effective to play, 20 guys or upwards, not only because it keeps a lot of players engaged in your program. Think about if you're like Mekhi Bayer. Every week he goes in and maybe the game plan's a little differently where he plays 15 snaps that game, but he's going to give his all for those 15 snaps. But then the next week he knows it might be 42 snaps if it's a certain team they're going against that fits his skill set well. And so I think the guys have really adapted well to that. And they also understand it's keeping players fresh. That was something Tony White noted yesterday, going into November. He feels like Reimer and Blaze Gunnerson and guys who have dealt with injury problems in the past and not made it through entire seasons, they're feeling pretty good right now as they head to the final month. So you're really hoping that the payoff comes in these 4 games we're about to see, where you've got a defense that's still kind of flying around while maybe other teams are laboring a little bit, but we'll see.
BC, a guy that I wanted to talk about, that Tony White brought up as well, was Prince Will on that play in the flat that I think everybody was amazed by in and of itself live. He pointed out how much better that play was than any of us even realized, in Prince Will dropping off to take away the slant initially and then getting out to cover and get a tackle for loss in the flat on the check down receiver. Just what have you thought about Prince Will as he's kind of started to emerge? I was a Cam Lenhart guy early. I like Prince Will as well, but it seems like Prince Will has really taken some steps over the course of the season.
Yeah, this is my biggest excitement about the Husker program now. And it's not that I don't think they can get it going on offense and figure out pieces. It's just much more of an unknown over there, right? About how guys are going to develop, and they haven't quite shown enough plays where you're like sure about what it's going to look like in a year or two. I'm getting to the defense, I promise. But like last night when Satterfield on the radio talked about the receivers, the young receivers, he mentioned like in a year, people are going to look up and say, hey, these guys are really good. And I think that entirely could be true. But we haven't quite seen enough from that side as like the defense where you're right. Like when you bring up Prince Will and you bring up Cam, and then you even think about like a Riley Van Poppel who has popped in. I mean, maybe he hasn't made as many plays as the other guys, but he's made more than a lot of true freshman guys I've covered have, you know, where it's like, oh, there he is. Look at that freshman, you know, with a TFL sort of deal. So they've got already 3 guys there, and then they're really excited about like 3 or 4 more guys that we haven't even seen, including like Brody Tagaloa, who hopefully comes back from his setback with the car accident next year because they loved him. That's exciting, that group, you know, that most of them are going to be back, and yes, they are going to lose a couple pieces on that defense, but they're not going to have to overhaul things next year. It's going to be a group with a lot of guys who have been around for a year, have heard what they're charted to do at their different positions, and there's versatility, and Prince Will showed it on that play, and he showed it by the fact you can line him up as a traditional D lineman, or you can make him like a jack linebacker, or heck, he was playing like middle linebacker for some reps and practices in the spring. So he's that type of guy who can just bounce around all over the place.
BC, you mentioned Satterfield on the radio yesterday. I think Tony White mentioned something similar. When looking at this matchup against Michigan State, they said when you watch clips of the Spartans, sometimes it's hard to think that they aren't 6-2 right now. I can think of a handful of reasons why they're not 6-2 right now. But in your mind, do you believe Michigan State is better than their record says?
Yes, a little bit. Not 6-2, but a win or two better. And also, I don't think there's hardly any difference in this league between Team 4 and, like, if you rank them 1 through 14.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's your Team 4 right now? I mean, it might be, you could argue it's like, it's either one of the West teams like Iowa, Wisconsin, or, I mean, heck, Nebraska could be considered at this point. Rutgers is 6-2.
Right.
So somebody like that is 4. And then 13, 14, you know, Indiana's obviously probably 14, but at 13 Michigan State. And I could say between 4 and 13. And, you know, even Indiana was putting some stress on someone like this last week. I think any of those games can be a touchdown game on any given week. So you put them in a blender. I think that the margin for error is so small right now in the perceived upper middle half of this league and the teams we would rank at the bottom, that I don't think you can go into any week and think like you've got like more than a 6-point advantage. And if you turn the ball over one more time than the other side, which Nebraska has been wont to do this season, it could be a problem. So I think they're wise to look at it that way. We all know that Nebraska, with the offense as it is right now, and the laying the ball on the ground as much as it has, until that stops, anything could happen against anybody, especially on a road game like this. You also wonder, Michigan State has lost 6 in a row, and some people have the mindset where they look at that and they're like, well, they're done. They're in the tank. And maybe they are. Maybe they're just ready to get to whatever the offseason offers in the portal and who's the new head coach and all that stuff. It's also possible they have one last stand in them, you know, and there's going to be a game. A team like that usually has a game in November where they play a prideful 60 minutes and they win. And everybody's like, oh, I didn't think they would have one left in them. And it almost always happens. So Nebraska just has to really be focused to not be the team that happens to, because he is right. They were ahead of Iowa in the fourth quarter, and really Iowa's special teams pulled the horseshoe out of their backside once again in that game. And then Rutgers, they're up 3 touchdowns on before the fourth quarter, and then they just had a special teams implosion. So they do have stuff on tape where you watch them for doses and you're like, oh, that looks pretty good. That D-line, they look salty, and they've got guys who can beat you. So that it's a worrisome game. The spread to me is right on, being like 2 or 3 points. That's how I kind of view it.
BC, how much do you consider going on the road after Nebraska has gotten a nice little home stretch in here with the bye week and everything? How much are you considering going on the road and having that be part of the challenge against Michigan State?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good, though, because they did get that nice little run in Memorial Stadium, and I love what's happening here in Lincoln because I've written and talked about this a lot. Like, they've got to get back to owning their backyard first and foremost, and they're 4-1 at home now, and if you could make that like 6-1 at home, and become that type of team where yearly you expect to do that, you're always going to a bowl game, and you're probably going to win 8 or 9 games. But now the next step is you've had success. People are kind of patting you on the back, especially the defense. Can you be the type of team that really doesn't pay much attention to it, has a few more eyes on it as far as the standings go, and says, we're just going to go play, kind of like our coaches are trying to get us to next play, and not pay attention to all the other stuff. And so I think it's actually good for this team right now in this moment to get away from Lincoln, see if you can keep momentum and go through the routine of being on the road and doing things the right way, and win a game that you're sort of supposed to win, but you also know that you don't have much margin for error for.
Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, we appreciate your time as always. And are you headed up to East Lansing this week?
Yeah, Brunson and I are heading up Friday, flying up actually, and it's one of those flights that leaves at like, I don't know what, I think we got a deal, but it's like one of those 5:45 a.m. flights where you got to be at the airport at like 4:45. So I won't be much of a person at 11 a.m. Friday, but I'll try to get ready by game time.
So get that nap in and get ready to go for Saturday. BC, we appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, BC.
That's Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7 Sports. I want to tell you about our friends over at Dingman's Collision Center. Dingman's has 4 great Omaha area locations. They've been in business, owned and operated locally by family-run business for the last 25 years. First place Best of Omaha for 18 years running. And they give back with every single car repair
Best thing about them
to the community. Make sure you go check out dingmans.com for more info. Coming up next, Kevin Sjuts from 1011 News in Lincoln. We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me.
What up?
We are brought to you by our friends at Rockbrook Camera. Rockbrook Camera, not just about trying to sell you a camera. They're trying to help you become a real photographer, whatever that means for you. If you're a professional, taking professional photos, doing weddings, sporting events, whatever. Or
kind of like Kevin Sjuts.
Like our guy Kevin Sjuts. Or if you're just a regular Joe like me, taking pictures of your friends, family, mostly your dogs, let's be honest, and want to share those with people, Rockbrook Camera has you covered. They've got the latest technology, and they offer unlimited support after the fact to help you learn about your new equipment. You can trade in your old gear to upgrade, or you can check out their extensive rental department if you're not sure what you want, or you just need something for a short term. Check out rockbrookcamera.com for more info, or check them out 168th and West Center in Omaha, or 70th and Pioneer in Lincoln. That's Rockbrook Camera. Joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline is our guy Kevin Sjuts from 1011 News in Lincoln. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Good morning. Just for the record, I have purchased a camera from Rockbrook before. Not only that, but they offered classes after I purchased it, and got to learn the ins and outs of everything. It was awesome. It was right as my kids were getting into youth athletic events, and now we have some awesome photos of the kids when they were younger.
Kevin Sjuts is for Rockbrook
Look
Camera.
at that.
That's just what he
our
said.
Own little personal testimonial. We love it, Kevin. Hey, as we get into week number 2 of the high school football playoffs, I guess what are you looking forward to this week?
Well, what can Lincoln East do? Obviously, that's
Sure.
our focus. Me being here in Lincoln, they're the lone capital city team still playing in Class A, and Jeter Worthley is just having a great year. A talented quarterback, even better baseball player. It all starts and ends with him for Lincoln East, and I should give a shout out to Grand Island as well. They were they upset Kearney on the road in week 1. That was a result I did not see coming because Kearney had beaten GI earlier in the season. So they've got a tough test ahead. But for me, the focus, what am I looking forward to? It's what happens when Lincoln East goes on the road and faces Elkhorn South. I think they have a chance, the Spartans do.
Kevin, playoff football, yes. But also a state champion or state champions will be crowned on the hardwood in volleyball. We haven't talked too much high school volleyball up to this point, but it's not too hard to notice who the juggernauts are for this tournament. If you could create here's a great scenario for Kevin, because Kevin's a big, he's a big hypothetical guy. He's a big scenario guy. Kevin, if you could create the dream sports report, one that's Emmy Award winning, what teams would you like to see win at state volleyball that presents the best stories?
Oh, presents the best stories. Wow. I was just going to give you the layup here, Andrew. I was just going to say, give me all of our local winners. But now you went a step further.
Right.
And get through the great stories on top. My goodness. Okay, so Omaha Scott. What's going to happen here, because they don't play any Nebraska teams? Class B is insanely fascinating with Scott, the perennial power.
Mm-hmm.
Elkhorn North, Reese Booth is amazing, and those girls have been starting since they were freshmen. So Elkhorn North has some juice on that story as well. And Norris, how many times have Norris been so close to winning a state title, but they've always had to face Omaha Scott? So regardless, I think you have a great story in Class B. And then I think the overall best bracket to watch this year is Class C1. I've seen a ton of these teams play this year. My daughter plays high school volleyball, and her team's at state. And we've gone up against so many C1 teams. Kearney Catholic has the Harburg sisters. They are amazing. That's a really salty team. Grand Island Central Catholic. There is no greater example of a team that consistently has postseason success in GICC. Malcolm has the state's kills leader in Hallie Dolliver. Minden probably had the best season out of any team in the state outside of getting clipped in the postseason. C1 with all the storylines there, that's good stuff too. I could keep going. I'm going to stop there and let you guys interject.
Seems like a killer sports report. Now, I don't know if the Harburg sisters take as many shots as Harburg does on a Saturday, but maybe they do a little bit of the swinging themselves on the hardwood. All right, Kevin, I got another scenario for you. All right, and I'm sure like every boy that loved sports growing up, you collected trading cards. If you didn't, well, here's the day you can finally imagine how much fun you missed out on. It's Christmas morning, okay? You rip open your first gift, and it's a pack of Panini cards. You're so excited, you tear right into it, and boom, you're hit with a Lexi Rodriguez trading card. You think what?
Is this me opening it as an adult or as a little boy?
Well, this scenario was as a kid, but we can make it as an adult if I know the direction you're leaning.
Adult, you're like, this is awesome. This is historic, and you can have some appreciation. If I'm a 7-year-old boy, I'm probably like, wait, what? Where's my Mike Trout?
I didn't realize she played baseball.
Yeah, right. If I'm a 14-year-old boy, I'm like, oh, a female in spandex. So it runs the gamut. I mean, we got to be specific on what the scenario is here. I think it's amazing, though, the fact that, and it's Panini, too. This is a great, well-esteemed card company that's producing it. This isn't just some joker company that's just trying to put together a card and make history. Like Panini's got some good stuff, and it's when you talk to collectors, they like those Panini cards.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, they also have the variations of the card. Of course, there's the standard one, but I don't know if you guys are aware, they have like the Lexi Rodriguez border and the Lexi Rodriguez special edition black border, and those are the ones that are going to retail at $200.
Wow.
Yeah, Kevin, these are the real deal. These aren't the ones I was clipping out of Wheaties boxes when I was a kid.
Or the ones you were given to by the police officers in town.
Well, like, right, because they used to give them in like cereal boxes and stuff, and my parents would like buy those so they wouldn't have to buy me actual trading cards. Kevin, real quick here, I do want to switch back to football, but I do want to talk about Class B here. You mentioned Lincoln East, the only team standing in Lincoln in Class A, but there are a couple area teams in Class B in Norris and Waverly that are still going in Class B. How do you like those two teams' chances as they move forward into the second round?
Well, Norris is hot right now. They're on a winning streak. I think they've won 5 or 6 in a row. But they play Bennington, and Bennington has really had some separation this year in Class B. But the way that they play, they have a chance, because if they can milk the clock and they run the ball, Blake Macklin, man, he's got a great offensive line in front of him, and he's a pretty talented back. So I like Norris, but I don't know that I think that they're going to win against Bennington. As for Waverly, you talk about a team that has just flown totally under the radar all season long. They are state finalist capable without question. I have no hesitation to say that. That's a team that, if you're designing a team on Madden, it's what Waverly football looks like. Fantastic offensive line. They got some dudes that hit on defense, and they have a variety of guys that can run the football. They've got a lot of weapons, but it all starts up front with Waverly. They play Hastings on Friday. I think that they can win on their home field, and then it's really going to get good for Waverly. I think they have a legitimate shot at getting to Memorial Stadium.
Kevin, quickly here, I want to take a look at Nebraska football and get your prediction for this weekend. Is this the day? Is Saturday the day that Nebraska gets that 6th win, the one that puts them in bowl eligibility?
Yes, Michigan State. I don't think they're very good. However, they have the interim coach last home game. They may have some motivation there. On paper, though, I think Nebraska is a much more talented team. Number 6, here we come. And, let's start looking at all those bowl possibilities.
Kevin, out of the possibilities, do you have a bowl preference? Do you have a place where you are you thinking like Vegas? You thinking San Diego? Where do you want to go, Kevin?
You already hit it, Ravi. Vegas,
baby. He's rolling the dice right now and betting that it's going to be Vegas.
Kevin Sjuts.
Or if you could throw Nashville in there, that's the other one.
Okay.
It's the last, I saw that pop up this week. That was the last bowl trip they went on, and man, Nashville puts on an awesome bowl game. Had a blast there back in 2016.
Music City Bowl. Let's go. Kevin Sjuts, 1011 News in Lincoln. Kevin, we appreciate your time as always.
Thank you, boys.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm thinking Vegas. Let's get out to Vegas. Don't tempt me with
Vegas.
And A-Rod are going to go to Vegas. Have a nice little time, cover a bowl game for Hurrdat Sports. How's that sound?
Well, Avery would be like, no, you're not.
Boss, buy the tickets. Let's go. We're going. We're taking the show on the road. Coming up next, we've got Jarod Hamilton from Power Mizzou. Talk a little bit of Missouri football here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We will wrap up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I want to tell you about our friends at Dyer Law. If you've got a personal injury, accident, or anything else that you need assistance with, you can count on the Dyer Law team to provide you with a helping hand when you need it, no matter what you're dealing with. Call the Dyer Law team at 402-393-7529 or visit dyer.law to chat with trusted professionals about your personal injury claim. That's DYER.law. Joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline is Jarod Hamilton. He covers Missouri football for Power Mizzou, part of the Rivals Network. Jarod, how you doing this morning?
Doing well. How about yourself?
We are doing well. Now, let's start with big picture here. How surprised are you by the success Missouri's had so far this season compared to what the expectations were going into the year?
For me, I honestly, I had the team going 7-5. I was kind of leaning 8-4 still while we were in the preseason making our predictions. That the game I was leaning on that could make it 8 was the Kansas State game. But remember, there was a quarterback battle going on, from the spring all the way down until first game, basically. So I was basically saying, I got to see how the quarterbacks are playing, come the Kansas State game. And I still think I picked Kansas State to narrowly win that game. So, yeah, I'm surprised. I know a lot of other people are surprised, but I know who's not surprised, and that's Eli Drinkwitz.
You mentioned that quarterback play. You've gotten a ton of production out of Brady Cook this year, over 2,000 yards passing, almost 70% completion, 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. How good has he been this year?
Oh, man, he's been amazing for the Tigers this year. I mean, He had 4 straight games of 340 yards passing. Prior to this year, he had never thrown 300 yards. And so when you look at when he had his first big game, it was versus Kansas State. Obviously, that's rivalry that dates back to their Big 12 days. Kansas State was number 15 at the time, so helped get the win there. I think he had his best game versus Vandy, threw for 395 yards, completed 80% of his passes. I think he had 4 passing touchdowns that day, or something like that. He had just a streak of going, crazy, and it's different from last year. Obviously, not just him, but the whole offense. Luther Burden is one of the country's, best players.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line has dramatically improved in pass protection in the run game, and there's still a lot of room to get better, but they're so much better than they were last year. Cody Schrader was a walk-on to start last year. He went from walk-on to getting the scholarship to now being a team captain to now being one of the top 10 to 15 running backs in the country. I mean, it's just kind of a 180 for this offense.
Jarod, the tandem of Brady Cook and Luther Burden has been nothing less than fantastic. But to most eyes that don't watch Mizzou each week, that's all people tend to see. For this matchup in particular, who are some other big name, big play guys on the outside that will need to pop up on the stat sheet in order for Mizzou to come away with the dub?
Okay, so offensively, Theo Weiss. I mean, he's former 5-star guy, former Oklahoma Sooner. He's been amazing in the red zone for the Tigers this year. His red zone ability, as far as just like a kind of that jump ball receiver, I guess, or something like that, where they can high point a ball and get it to him. Seen that a number of times this year. He's solidified himself as the number 2 receiver on the team. But definitely the number 1 receiver when it comes to leadership in the wide receiver room. They've talked about that extensively this year. Missouri comes into this game with the number 1 red zone offense, so if they can get down there, that'll be big. Drink actually made a joke yesterday at the press conference about Georgia defense basically being top 10 in every category except red zone defense. He was saying but he was saying no one ever gets to the red zone, so they don't really get to work on it. So Missouri gets to the red zone. That's something they're going to have to capitalize on because that's maybe one of the very few things that Georgia doesn't get to work on. So that'll be that. And then defensively, Tyron Hopper, he was amazing last year. He's kind of struggled in my eyes a little bit. The coaches think he's better this year because he has to play more. He's had more responsibility in the second year in Blake Baker's scheme. Starting Mike linebacker Chad Bailey has been in and out with a core injury, and he's trending towards out, it seems like, based on Drink's comments yesterday. But he's having to do more. But on any given day, he can be the best defensive player on the field. So they'll need a big day from him defensively as well.
Jarod, you mentioned that a lot of teams don't get into the red zone against Georgia. You look at their schedule, and it doesn't seem like they've really played an opponent of true value up until this point, where they get Mizzou, a top 25 team in the country, one of the best teams in the SEC. But on the other end of the spectrum, being somebody that covers the Tigers, that they seem to be more battle tested than Georgia at this point. Do you think that gives Mizzou an advantage at all?
I don't know if it gives Mizzou an advantage, but I'll definitely say, based on talking to the players and talking to Drink yesterday, they're not scared. So Drink and the players are talking about, they're not worried about the storylines because Drink said if they win, then everybody's going to say they have the inside track to the SEC East. But he's like, there's still going to be 3 SEC games after that. So that's not true. If they lose, people are going to say, the season's over because of the stakes in that game and all that other stuff. And he's like, that's also not true. So they're just trying to focus on, what's in front of them. They have played 3 ranked games. Their only loss was to LSU and what looks to be a Heisman candidate and the best wide receiving duo in the nation. So it's, they feel like they've played some good games. On the other hand, for Georgia, yeah, sure, they haven't played no one this year, but a team that's won 25 straight and 2 national titles, I mean, I don't think it's the same thing for them particularly. Maybe if this was another team, but considering the number of big games they've been in and the fact that every team who plays them is going to treat it like their national championship for the most part, I feel like they've probably been in a number of big games that they consider, knowing that everybody every week is going to give them their best shot, as Missouri did last year when they came to Columbia.
We're talking with Jarod Hamilton from Power Mizzou, part of the Rivals Network. Jarod, I'm curious about kind of the tenure of Coach Drinkwitz, as, you know, the first 3 years in Columbia didn't really have that much different of a start than Barry Odom, who was obviously let go after 2019. How important was it this year for Eli Drinkwitz to take that leap to the next level to show that the program was headed in the right direction?
It was huge. It was huge. 3 straight 500 seasons. I could tell you, scraping to get by to get to 6-6. Last year to get to the Gasparilla Bowl, they have bigger aspirations than that. And so last year he was talking a lot about progress and how it's not linear. Like sometimes you make progress here, sometimes you make it there. It's not always just a straight line, and that's true. But at some point, the win column needs to jump up. It needs to be more than 6. And so a lot of us was really thinking, 7. Even if it's 7, like that's not too great, but at least it still shows something. And if you get to 8, we were thinking, okay, like safe spot. Now they're thinking a lot more. I wrote about this the other day, how it's kind of cool to see expectations for any team change, whether you're a fan or not. So if you're like me, again, you started at 7, and then after a couple games, you're like, can they win, 8 games? And then that only lasted a week, and then it became, well, this is definitely a 9-3 team for sure. Then it starts becoming, well, we're looking at 10-2, maybe New Year's 6, and obviously because it's Georgia week, everybody's so excited and think they can pull an upset, and it kind of tends to, like, if you win this game, then you do have the inside track to the SEC East, even though Drink isn't trying to think about it like that. They're being number 12 in the college football playoff poll, highest ranking ever. I mean, there is some buzz, because if this is 2024 and this was the final week of the ranking, you'd be in the CFP. So they've definitely made a significant jump for sure.
Jarod, has there been anything that Coach Drinkwitz has changed or adjusted between the first 3 years and this year, or do you feel like it was more of just things that had slowly built up that they finally were able to break through?
I think it's probably a mix of both, but I would say for sure it's been having the offensive coordinator, bringing in Kirby Moore from Fresno State. He had a great offense last year, and even though that's the Mountain West Conference and you may scoff at that, when he first got hired, I remember doing research about it, and the Mountain West had like 5 or 6 of the top 50 defenses in the country. It wasn't like they were playing, some community colleges or something. They were playing some pretty decent defenses over there. And the fact that Drake now, you can see that he's embellished basically CEO head coaching type of style now, because he said earlier this year, well, when we go against the defense, which really good again, they're 37th ranked in the nation. They were 34 last year. When they would go against the defense last year and they didn't succeed, he'd be frustrated, because that's what he's preparing for. But now this year, he's got an offensive coordinator that's pretty good. He's got a defensive coordinator that's pretty good. So whether the offense wins versus the defense, or the defense beats the offense, he's like, I'm happy either way. And so they're playing well, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Jarod Hamilton from Power Mizzou, part of the Rivals Network. Jarod, we appreciate your time, and good luck this week.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Jarod.
That's Jarod Hamilton from Power Mizzou, part of the Rivals Network. Coming up next, I believe we'll be joined by our very own Avarie Howard here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me, and we are joined now by our teammate, Avarie Howard. Speaking of teammates, though, the Teammates Mentoring Program was founded in 1991 by Dr. Tom and Nancy Osborne. Their mission is to positively impact the world by inspiring students to reach their full potential through mentoring. They found that 1 in 3 young people will grow up without a mentor, and they are trying to help fix that problem. Mentors and mentees meet in school during the day for about 30 minutes once a week to play games, just chat, talk about whatever's going on in each other's lives. And many mentors have found that they find the experience just as beneficial as the mentees do. Make sure you go to teammates.org to become a mentor today. Avarie, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you guys? Can you guys see me on the stream?
I don't even know.
What's up, Avarie?
What up? Shane, I joined.
I
Come
don't
on,
see you yet.
Shane.
I'll resend you the link just to make sure.
Okay, that's fine.
Avarie,
You blew
so
it.
we were talking off air a little bit about your Halloween festivities yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, what is the so you watched Hocus Pocus?
We did watch Hocus Pocus.
Which I've never seen, by the way.
So I've seen it.
Okay.
I have some questions about this. So you watched it when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, and I can't say I was like the dedicated, like it was my every year. It
Okay.
was like the, like like the 31 days of Halloween thing. It would kind of just like come on.
Yeah, I was a
So.
great pumpkin. Oh, geez, words are hard. A great pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Oh yeah, love
was
love
me.
love all the Charlie Brown, the Christmas, the Thanksgiving, the Halloween. I gotta say, so I had never seen Hocus Pocus growing up,
Yeah.
and it was my wife is like the Hocus Pocus Halloween person,
Okay.
whatever, and so she had me watch it, and I go, babe, do you want me to tell you what I really think here? And she goes, yeah, and I was like, I think this is one of those that you had to see when you were a kid.
Yeah, it is. It's a nostalgia thing.
Yeah, because it's bad if you see it as an adult. It's like Space Jam.
Yeah.
I love Space Jam.
Yeah, like
It's the best.
yeah.
But if I had watched that for the first time as like a 30-year-old,
Yeah.
I'd been like, what the F am I watching here?
Yeah.
This is so weird.
Yeah.
Why is Michael Jordan playing basketball with cartoons?
Right.
I don't think that'd be weird.
Why is Bill Murray here?
That would be weird.
So I don't totally get the Hocus Pocus thing. What else did you do for Halloween though?
We actually did have a pretty festive night. It was kind of fun. Because we both we both forgot
We
it was Halloween. to
Actually
start.
had a pretty festive night.
We did. We painted pumpkins.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you're a
and
painter over a carver?
it just was easier.
It's
Last
less messy.
minute.
It's
Yeah,
less
we
messy.
both woke up.
I'm all about the no
Yeah.
mess.
We both woke up yesterday and like kind of forgot it was Halloween, and we both left for work and we were like, "Oh, happy Halloween!" Like, I love being home on Halloween. I love the kiddos in my neighborhood and stuff.
Mhm.
So we really tried. Last night we had our door open. We had the bowl of candy so people could see it through our glass door. We got none.
So you were trying to entice
Apartment though, right?
Yeah, it is. But we
Yeah.
have our own front door, and we're like in a little village. And so we have kiddo neighbors across the street that we're friends with. We really thought we were going to see them. So anyway, we create our
See,
own fun.
So you were trying to entice the
I gotta
neighbors
tell you,
with
though.
candy? Is
Yeah.
that
Living in an apartment,
Yeah.
I thought the same thing.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for because it would make sense, right?
Yeah.
But then again, with all the trunk or treats and
Yeah.
neighborhoods around the area, I guess you just pick up your kid and go
Yeah.
over there. But I first had a bag of candy too for a
Yeah.
bunch of kids, and nobody ever came. So I
Mhm.
realized for apartments that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But this was my first year
Yeah.
in my house, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm really excited. I wanted to be the guy that had the big candy bars.
Yeah.
Oh wait, which speaking of Avarie, happy Halloween.
Oh, no way. Wow, big size.
Mhm.
Wow.
So I had the big size, not
Wonderful.
just Sour Patch.
Can you guys see that?
Like chocolate bars. Shane got one too. Robbie said he didn't like candy
Oh.
because he's weird.
Okay.
And his candy
take
choices
it.
yesterday were horrid. So I didn't choose to give
Listen,
him any.
you didn't have any Smarties for me?
No, I didn't buy. They don't have the big packs of Smarties. Like
Like
those
a
giant
roll
ones.
like this?
No, have you ever seen those
Yeah.
at candy stores? So I got big chocolate bars. I got those and a big thing of Swedish fish, which I didn't even go through because I didn't have enough kids come through. But I had about 50,
Oh.
around there. And it was awesome because there was this one little boy that came up with his brother, and he was like maybe 5 or 6. And every little boy, I bet you could guess his costume. Like, what do you think he was?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, right?
Guess who? Guess
I'm
who?
crushing Guess Who already.
Yeah, so he was like Spider-Man. It was like the buff suit.
Yeah.
like-
Yeah.
And so he comes in, and both him and his brother didn't see a candy bar that big in their entire life. Like they
Oh
were
my
looking in
gosh.
there, and their eyes got really big. And they each took one and just walked away. And the mom was like, "No, you go back and say thank you." And this little boy, the
Mhm.
little 5-year-old, the other one was 7. He said thank you. Like a 7-year-old would probably say thank you, but the 5-year-old is wanting to be your best friend.
Mhm.
He practically wanted to come in and pet my dog.
Oh.
He comes up and he goes, "Thank you, happy Halloween." And I go, I'm melting out the front door. And then there was another group of kids who walked over, and also we're in a big group,
Mhm.
10 to 12 of them walked up, saw the big candy bars and were like, oh, this is like legit.
Legit.
So then they walked away, and I have a Nest or a door, or like a Ring doorbell that tells me, because I was watching the World Series at the time, so I wanted
Riveting
to
game.
like be in a different room. It was a weird game. It was a blowout, and then it turned into
kind of got interesting, almost
like a kind of a thriller.
Yeah.
So I see that people are at my Nest, or I say Nest, the door again. My nest.
People are at my nest.
I'm like a baby bird.
Little baby, just feed the little baby birdies.
So I realized that it was like the same 3 kids that were just there.
Sorry.
And I open the door, and I'm too nice of a guy to like turn them away. But I'm like, didn't I just see you 3? And the one boy that was in the group digs his hand in, grabs another candy bar, and goes, "You sure did," and ran away. And I'm like, he probably thought he got me, let alone I called them out before they even got there. But gosh, it just being able to experience that on my own for the first time, like that was just awesome. And it's funny because now I'm gonna be like the house that like everyone wants to stop at.
Yeah,
because they're gonna be like, oh, that
big candy bar guy,
the big candy bars.
We got king size over here.
On the flip side, I actually have a funny story about this in your Ring camera. So because my family grew up
on my Ring camera,
sorry, the Ring camera conversation started something.
Okay.
I could tell that my mom was a little senti yesterday because she was sending us all of our old Halloween pictures. And we just love Halloween in our neighborhood. Like we had this huge cul-de-sac. We would like even when it was like the big transition, you could go from trick-or-treating with your family to your friends, that big jump. I was like, no, like I have to go with my neighborhood and like my family. I just loved our tradition. So my mom last night was texting us about like the kiddos and what they were dressed up as and stuff. And she texted us. She was like, I just had Elvis at the door. And we were all like, oh, cute, blah, blah, blah. And she sent us a ring thing. And I was like, this is probably violating a lot of something.
Like a little creepy.
A little bit.
But, okay.
But I could hear my mom. She's like, oh, I love your outfit, honey. Like, blah, blah, blah. So then I texted her back and I was like, so cute. Like, what'd you give him? Trail mix? Because a few years ago, she tried to do the healthy thing.
Oh,
She really tried.
Don't be the crunchy house.
I know. So she did. She tried. And if she's listening, Mom, love you so much. And
we love you, Mrs. Howard.
Yes,
but
she tried. She tried. No, she tried a few years ago. And we were like, Mom, like, no, no, you're not going to get anyone. Like, don't do that. And she was like, yeah, but these ingredients, like, if I could be one house, I just get, and we were like, no. Within 10 seconds, my dad shoots back an apple. My younger brother goes, yeah, probably an actual apple. 10 seconds later, my oldest brother, probably a bag of green beans.
She's just handing out like cans of green beans.
Yeah.
We were joking about like those popcorn balls yesterday that everybody hated.
Oh my God.
Terrible.
I mean, caramel apple lollipop. She actually shares my appreciation.
My
for
mom
those
used
things.
to hand those out.
That's way better. That's way better.
She
than
didn't do
granola.
healthy last night. She didn't, but she
Good
tried
for
a
her.
few years ago, and she'll never live it down.
I mean, you can't be
the
the
pretzels,
granola bars.
What are we doing? So when I got diagnosed with diabetes,
What
like
are we doing?
some of my neighbors knew,
Yeah.
and they were trying to be like really considerate
Yeah.
and like get me healthy stuff. And I was like, guys, when my blood sugar goes low, I have to eat candy. Like, don't give me apples.
Yeah.
Like, I know I can't, like I gotta be a little more careful, but like,
You're like I have diabetes. Feel bad for me.
yeah, I was like, please don't. Like, I understand you're trying to be considerate. Just like, give me the GD candy. All right, like that's all I want here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were talking about.
Sorry, got off a tangent there, but I
Hey,
had to share.
No, you're fine.
Hey, by the
Bag
way,
of green beans.
so Hocus Pocus is such a big deal. I'm looking here. There's the original movie. There's 2 TV movies. There's a Hocus Pocus 2 and there's a Hocus Pocus 3
There is.
coming out
Yeah.
with
They
a
stopped
budget
after
of
the first
$100
one.
million.
Yeah.
And
What'd you
none
say?
of them
Should they
are
have stopped
good.
after the
And
first
none
one?
of them are good. Like I
None
get the
of them-
nostalgia of the
It's
first
just
one,
nostalgia.
but none of them are
But
good.
like, are you somebody that watches all of them or just
No,
one?
I actually have only seen the first one.
I'm
Yeah,
just like
so they
that
should have
with
stopped
like
after the first one.
Sandlot. Like
That
I
answers
love
my
the
question.
Sandlot. I'm not watching any of the sequels.
Yeah.
Get out of
Well,
here.
the
with
Sandlot
that.
2 is just like it's not the same kids.
That's what I mean. Like it's not even
like
the
at
same
least
people.
like when you see a real sequel like The Hangover, it's the same people.
Yes.
But this is like new, like just new actors.
Get
Like,
out
what
of
are we
here
doing?
with that.
I don't know. It looks like all the same people are in Hocus Pocus. I mean,
Yeah, but it
well,
was bad the first time. So, all right, Avery. So we were talking about this earlier off air. What age?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you mentioned the transition from
Yeah.
like parents to friends. What
Mhm.
age did that happen for you? And then secondly, is there like a threshold where you're like, hey, you need to because I think Andrew
did have a
Andrew
trick-or-treater
had like a
last night.
defensive lineman come to his door
Yeah.
yesterday.
Like by himself.
with like 2 other people,
But like adults.
But I thought they were adults, but I thought they were like with kids because they came right after kids and like they opened their pillowcase, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to tell you no. I'll put some candy in.
Because you're 6'6", I'm not going to tell you no. You might kill me.
But I'm just like, is there a threshold of when you have to stop trick or treating?
I mean, I think I lose the interest, but I like being the hander outer or like walking with the people, you know. The jump I think was like
I felt like I should have given him like a beer.
You're
Are
like,
you sure you want this
"Are
king size
you-"
Reese's?
Do you want like a little airplane shot?
Yeah,
Like, what?
seriously. Yeah, shooters. Yeah, I think I was like I think it was like 7th grade, like 13, I think. I think I got a phone finally. So I think at that point I was able to. But I remember I was like so torn because like my friends wanted to go in like the same path that like my neighborhood was going to go. And I was like, perfect, we'll just all go together. But like they don't want to do that.
They don't want to hang out with your
No.
little
So I was
neighborhood
like,
crew.
but I think it was like 13, like 7th grade ish, I think. Yeah.
I will say, I think the idea of giving out little shooters to parents with their kids is a terrific idea. Just like, hey kids, here's your candy, and parents,
Chucking to the end of the driveway.
So I go deep, like, here you go. Here's your little fireball shooter for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, stay warm out
Just
there.
try to help them keep warm.
If it
Yeah.
were warmer outside, I probably would have like had like my bonfire pit on my
For
driveway,
sure, that was the best.
and I would have had a cooler set
Yeah.
aside for parents.
Yeah.
But it was so cold yesterday.
So many kids had to wear Under Armour and were so upset about it last night.
Oh yeah.
So many turtlenecks. So many tears.
There was.
But
I used to.
I don't want to wear my puffy coat.
I used to literally plan my Halloween costumes on what would be warm enough that I wouldn't have to wear a coat.
You know what you
over
should
it.
have gone as? The kid from A Christmas Story.
That's
like
true.
last night. It would have been fantastic. Are you looking up the kid from A Christmas Story right
no,
now?
I'm looking at the pictures my mom sent me yesterday that I had a turtleneck on. But
Amazing Daniel says if they have a costume, they will give you candy at their door.
Well, that's
They're
kind of
big
like
Halloween
me.
people.
I'm not going to turn somebody away.
No,
but I did think about.
It does get weird at a point. I feel
was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, should I save this for the 7-year-old that comes next,
If
or
you're
should I
an
give it to the?
if you're an
47-year-old?
adult, just come to Hurrdat Sports Bar next year for Halloween. You can still wear your costume.
Right.
You don't have to creep
Sure.
Andrew out at his door. You don't have to worry about him having 6'6" guys just rolling up to his door, be like, "Give me all your candy."
He didn't have a gun.
I mean, just he's a big guy.
He was a
Intimidating.
big guy. He could have taken me down. But I do have a dog that is skittish as all can be. Like, she sounds so mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, her bark is very deep and manly, yet she's like the sweetest thing ever.
What kind of dog is it?
She's a black lab, but she's small. Like, she's mixed with another.
So for some reason, you said the name. It's Molly, right?
Molly. Huh?
I just imagine this like tiny white dog.
No,
Like,
she's
I
like
imagine
She's not a Bella.
like a little Pomeranian or
But she
something.
could be a Bella, like a 60-pound black lab. But yes, no, she's fair. Like, let me pull up.
I found the picture I was going to show you guys.
Yeah,
Here we go.
yeah,
I don't know which year
This
this
is great
was, but
radio.
Here you go. There was the costume.
Oh, elite.
Oh, that is sweet.
Good stuff.
Notice my brother's the cheerleader. And
Yep,
I'm the football
yep.
player. If anyone can see that, there
That's
she
Molly.
is. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like,
That's
so
like
she-
a good sized
Yeah,
dog.
she's like 60
Herbie.
pounds.
I just assumed with the name Molly, I was picturing like a tiny, fluffy white dog.
Do I look like a tiny, fluffy white dog?
I thought maybe it was an Ashley thing. I don't know.
That could have
If I was being on it,
That could have been.
But I didn't know. So I haven't gotten, I don't think I've lived in my house since 2019. We moved in after Halloween. So this is my 3rd Halloween in this house. I don't think I've gotten a single trick or treater in 3 years.
No.
And I think it's because of my dogs.
Oh.
My dogs are.
What are they?
I've got 3 pit bull mixes and a German Shepherd mix.
Okay.
So they're very noisy and they're super
No
friendly.
way. Not buying it.
Oh my gosh. Like Doug's bark will like shake your soul.
Squirrel.
There is it looks a little different than that one. Just this big black, like 120-pound American Bulldog mix. He's huge. And he's got this deep bark where sometimes he'll bark at me if he doesn't realize I'm in the house. Like if my wife goes to bed before I do and he's in bed and I open the door, it like scares him and he'll wake up and bark. And it scares me. And I know this dog would never hurt me. So I understand, I think there's a lot of kids that are like, maybe we just skip. And I try and give them like, hey, I just leave the bowl out so they don't have to worry about the dog.
See,
coming
he's
to
a
the door.
bowl lever. What do bowl levers end up getting in return? One guy that comes through, dumps the entire bowl in his bag, and then walks off.
See, my bowl was full. I left.
Well, that's because you didn't have one guy
That's
that
what
came to your door.
I mean.
But those bowl leavers, like, they're look, if you
leaver.
leave a bowl outside, the first group of kids that come through are wiping you clean.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I've I've had peace with that. But I also, so I leave the bowl because I don't want kids to worry about the dogs being at the door and like freaking them out a little bit. So it's like, oh, you can get the candy and but nothing. So for the first 2 years, I literally just set the same candy out 2 years in a row, which I don't know if that's healthy or not. Probably not. But I got new candy this year. It's still nothing.
You know what's funny is last year, sorry, my last Halloween story.
It's fine.
Last year.
That's what we're here for.
All these things are bringing up thoughts. I was at my grandpa's at this point last year before I moved into my apartment, and he's 90, and so he loves all of his neighbors, but he just was like, I don't want to do the up down thing where I got to get up every 10 seconds to whatever. And I was like, Grandpa, I got it. Like, I want to talk to all the kids. Like, I miss seeing all the kids, whatever. And he always has candy on stock, like next to his recliner, like bag of candy. So I'm like, I know you've got candy.
Is it like real candy or grandpa candy?
Yeah,
like, are we talking about like Werther's?
No, like a bag of mixed like chocolates
Okay,
that
like
you would
real
get.
candy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he'd always
You
have
always
like,
have to worry about grandpa candy.
It's grandpa candy.
So I came home from work and he was like, I told him before and I told him I would do it, whatever. And he was like, oh, by the way, Avery, I have the bowl of candy on the kitchen counter, whatever, ready. And it was full of Kit Kats. I go to grab it and I didn't even think twice about it. And I set it down. It was a strainer.
It had two handles.
I grabbed it.
Wow, I wish I had a bowl like this at my place.
I grabbed it to take with me to the front, and then I set it down on the side table, and I was like, that's a strainer. It was gold. It was fantastic. I was like, this is amazing. Amazing. It was only like this big too. So I had to refill a ton, but I was like, only at Grandpa's house do you hand out Kit Kats in the strainer.
You love to see it.
Sure
Avery, do you have a favorite costume that you've ever done?
Oh, I was
Probably the
this
Husker.
one.
Is it
for
the Husker
sure.
one?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Because at school I was like so cool because I had this really big Husker helmet.
And I mean, listen, I think every kid that I knew had that Husker helmet.
Yeah,
like
probably.
it was.
But I lived in Kansas. So
I know,
not
so-
everyone did.
Yeah, so it's a bigger deal. For
I
you.
wasn't a KU or Mizzou K-State kid, so
You're a
I was.
Nebraska kid.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
everyone knew it.
Yeah. Well, you got to let them know.
For sure.
They still know it.
Oh, they know. They know.
All right, so speaking about this team and this weekend, we can finally get into some.
Oh, what a
some Husker
transition.
I was
Well
just gonna
done.
say, do you mean to show you?
Delete.
You know, I was bringing this up with BC because I heard it from the coaches yesterday on how they thought Michigan State they're actually like a 6-2 team. Like they should be better than their
Yeah.
record. But I can still pinpoint a handful of things why they're not a 6-2 team. But I do think it's important to emphasize not overthinking this opponent with what's at stake, right? With the 6-game mark there. How important do you think that piece of this whole thing is going on the road this weekend?
Not focusing on the 6-game thing.
Yeah, like not like making that like oh my gosh, we're almost there. This is what we've been playing for this season. Because really that was the goal.
Yeah.
The goal that everybody set was let's get to a bowl game.
Yeah.
Now it's obviously you can supersede that at this point, but how important is it to just take it that one step at a time?
I think it's huge. I think the thing that helps is this team all year long has practiced going 1-0 every week. So they haven't necessarily, from what it seems like from a coaching standpoint, had this overarching, we've got to get to this or we've got to get to that. So I think that helps subconsciously. Do I think it's going to creep into some of the minds? Absolutely. It's definitely back there. But I think from the coaching staff perspective, they won't let that get to the front of mind. I think because all season long, even throughout fall camp, it's just we have to get better today and we have to get better this week. And then we're going to go 1-0 on the weekend. I think that's just kind of, from what it seems like, ingrained in this team enough that I know the 6-game mark is so close. But I also think we talked about yesterday, even though this Michigan State team by the record, says a lot, they're a tough team to have to rally around kind of what they're rallying around. It's their last home game. It's probably a senior game. It's Nebraska's first away game in a little while. So Nebraska also has some other things to focus on in terms of some of those outside factors. But I guess I'm thinking based on how they've been thinking for most of the season, they're probably focused on that 1-0 mindset.
Yeah, because the reason I was thinking more and more about this and hearing that, like, oh, they're a better team than this or that. And then thinking back to just a year or two ago when Nebraska was kind of in the same spot. Like if we really wanted like sit back and decipher the season of Michigan State, it's okay. They had their chances to win and then they kind of blew it in the fourth quarter. Like, who does that sound like?
Yeah.
Or, oh, you get really close to the finish line and then you lose by a score.
Yeah.
And so, like, yes, you can draw a comparison to Nebraska in that moment. And maybe Nebraska was a better team a year or two ago than what their record said. But I still think it's you can't forget that when a team knows your tell, when the team knows you can't close, that's something teams can take advantage of. Any team on your schedule later on down the line. That's why you're 2-6 and you aren't 6-2. Could they have won a pair of those games and been 4-4? Sure. But the fact is they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff that they have in front of them, the stuff that they have laid out in front of them this week, they have an interim head coach. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They can't close in games. Those are three things right there that show me that you're susceptible to defeat and you're easy to take advantage of. Now, will Nebraska be able to clean up those mistakes so that they can physically take advantage of this team like we saw Minnesota do last week? That's, to be determined on Saturday. But Michigan State is not better than 2-6. Like, they're 2-6 and they're 0-5 in the Big Ten for a reason.
Right. When you look at their schedule too, like outside of the first 2 weeks when they had those 2 wins, it really never got much easier for them. They've kind of had to go through it from the first week of Big Ten play. They haven't, not to say anything against Northwestern, Purdue, or anything like that, or in Illinois, but they don't really have any of those mixed in here. It's just kind of big game after big game after big game, and it's probably really hard to gain any confidence or momentum out of any of those as well.
Yeah, I think there's the one thing that worries me about Michigan State is the timing of this game, the last home game, the last home game before that finale against Penn State. You've got the it seems like they like their interim coach, but I just don't know how much that matters. Like if this game was 2 weeks ago, I don't give it a second thought. I really don't even consider Michigan State a threat necessarily, but I also think Nebraska is playing dramatically better than they were 2 weeks ago also. So it's kind of a catch-22 in that spot. But I think at the end of the day, if Nebraska's focused and ready to go, then it's not going – they're going to beat Michigan State if they do what they need to do.
If Nebraska can start the game better than they have the last 2 weeks, they'll be already 2 steps ahead of the past.
Even say that with a straight face.
Let's try not to give the ball away immediately.
Yeah.
Coming up next, we have our Guess Who game. We're going to see if Avarie can defend her title.
Set the bar really high.
Yeah, set the bar. Yeah, I know. You got to follow up here.
I'm throwing a curveball at her to kick things off.
Uh-oh. We got all that and more coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back.
Brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. Alumni Hall is your ultimate Husker shopping experience with the best and largest selection of apparel for the whole family. Adidas, Champion, Columbia. They've got gifts, accessories, and tailgating supplies as well. You can get 10% off if you are a UNL student, faculty, or a military member. And as always, you can get those cashback rewards with your hall pass. Visit the 2 Lincoln locations, P Street, downtown, or in South Point Pavilion, or anytime at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Husker fans shop. I wonder if you can get one of the little mini helmets like Avarie had for
mini helmets or big helmets?
He has a big helmet.
Well, so a big helmet for a mini person, like because you were a child at the time, right?
Yeah.
Mini person.
Is that what we call children these days?
Mini.
That's what people without children call children.
No, I call them gremlins most of the time.
Never mind.
All right, it's
Halloween's over.
It was a Halloween joke. That's all. Definitely not my true feelings about children. We've got our game for Wednesday is Guess Who. Last week, Avarie dominated, even though I ended up getting more answers right than her. She was more impressive in her performance.
You still have.
I'm not gonna let that go because I got 2. She only got 1, so I'm just scoreboard. That's all.
But I also set you up for the final in that guess.
You did,
Andrews.
And also yours was your right answer was dramatically more impressive. You had 3 guesses or 3 clues, and you were good to go.
Yeah, that was
wild. The other 2 took forever.
So I'm gonna put that to the test, though.
We are.
Yeah.
We're going to put Avarie's abilities on Guess Who to the test.
We got to see if Avarie is just elite or Hall of Fame.
Or if that was just luck. It's possible it's just luck.
It could be
she
hit a home run in her first AB, and then she fell off the map.
Yeah, could have had like a Shane Spencer for the Yankees type deal. We don't know. Just a good month.
Who are
knows?
you, Avery?
I'm about to find out.
Yes, we are. So here's what you need to do, because this is how Guess Who originally started. In 60 seconds, ask as many questions as you can think of. Try to remember the answers, because you're like the only one that
You're the only one
processing
guessing
the information.
here.
We're just here to give you the answers. Ravi has it pulled up. I have it pulled up. This individual is somebody that everybody knows.
Yes,
okay, so
100%.
It's not like
No trick question.
This is not an obscure person.
Not the
at
like,
all.
not like the picture you had last week
pitcher. Well, Randy Johnson's not obscure.
or whatever you said
He's
he
Hall
was.
of Famer.
Hall of Famer. Before my time, baseball player.
Well, maybe right when you were born. Okay, so we'll go through this. Shane, can you put 60 seconds on the clock here so we can see it on the iPad, please?
Yeah, give me a second here.
And then at the very end, you'll get one more guess. You can guess throughout if you want to.
Okay.
Whenever you're
But
ready.
once 60 seconds is up,
Final.
think about all the clues over again. We can help remind you of things.
I'll
and
type
then
them up.
one final guess.
'Kay.
Shane, on my mark. I'm going to say ready, set, go, and then Avery's going to fire away.
Why am I nervous? Okay.
Ready, set, go.
Is it a male?
Yes.
Is it an athlete?
Yes.
Great. Do they play basketball?
No.
Do they play football?
No.
Baseball?
No.
Hockey?
No.
Soccer?
No.
What? And a golfer?
No.
Well known. They don't play any of those sports.
Incredibly well known.
Wrestling?
No.
Boxing?
No.
MMA?
No.
For the love of God.
30 seconds.
Tennis?
No.
Nope.
Am I totally missing the mark here?
Yep.
Wow. Sports.
Yep. They do play sports.
Yep, got that part. Oh my God, I can't think of any other sports. Are we serious? Is it fake? Is it Joey Chestnut? Like
No,
what?
It's a real sport. Very real sport.
Hey, eating hot dogs is real.
It's challenging.
19 seconds.
Really well known. Crap. No.
She's stuck on the sport.
Yeah. No.
I think our clock froze. It's been a 19
Oh,
seconds.
I literally, I
Swimming.
I literally can't think of anything. I said every
Shane, how
sport
much
under
time
the
is
sun.
left?
I thought
You get
male sport. Everyone knows them, but they don't play any of those sports.
Correct.
I think 19 seconds is up.
I think we have missed our 19 seconds. You
All
have
right.
One final
you get
guess.
One guess. Pull a rabbit out of a hat here.
They play a sport. Are they playing? Do I get that still?
We'll go. They are
They're-
retired.
They're retired.
They're retired.
They don't play any of
Recently
those-
retired.
Yeah.
They don't play any of those sports.
You definitely remember this person.
I'm at like a total loss. Like my brain is empty
You
right
totally
now.
brain farted after going through the primary sport.
Yeah. Like, I'm a fake. Crap! I literally don't even know. I can't think of any other
You
athlete.
can't think of any athlete that doesn't play those sports.
Come on.
You think we should let's give her 3 more questions.
Okay, go ahead. 3 more
You have
questions.
3 more questions. Whatever you want.
We'll try to guess. Try to
Do
guess.
they work in sports now?
Well, hold on. Guess first, and then then we'll give you 3 more.
Tiger Woods.
No.
No, he's a
Not Tiger
golfer.
Woods.
Nope. Okay,
No.
so does he work in sports now?
Not prominently if he
No.
does. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not what you would know him for.
Okay.
You definitely know him for his primary athletic career.
Sean White.
No. But
No.
Great guess.
You're getting closer on the right track.
Well, don't tell her that, because now she's just going to think of like.
Don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just sorry.
Tony Hawk.
No. See, I told
See,
you.
yeah, that's my
I
bad.
told you.
That's my bad. That's my bad.
But I'm thinking of sports now that aren't.
Yeah.
Okay,
Michael Phelps.
Yes,
Michael
there you
Phelps,
go.
yes.
There you
Swimming.
go.
Would've been-
Shane said swimming and no one answered, so I was like, well crap.
That's because he's
why.
not playing.
Shane, keep your mouth shut.
We all just stared at him like, Shane, come on, man.
Damn it.
Michael Phelps was indeed the answer.
That's so brutal. After baseball, hockey, football, soccer, I was shocked.
You were just like, what are the other
I
Did
sports?
was
you say
like-
track and field?
No.
I was
See,
just
we could have gone like Usain Bolt.
Yep.
I was just
thinking
trying to
like
help
any-
a friend out. That's all I was trying to do.
Well, Shane, guess what? This isn't called Help Who. It's called Guess Who.
Yeah, it kind of screwed. No, I'm not actually. No, not your fault, Shane. Just no one responded to you, so I was like, well, swimming's out. Crap. I actually met him at the swim trials.
Does it make you feel worse?
Huh?
About how
No,
that went?
no, wasn't. Sorry,
We were
Michael,
accurate though, right? Like that's you
Yeah,
definitely
everyone
know
knows
that's
who
a
he
person.
is. Yeah.
That's not an obscure
I
athlete.
mean,
Ah!
most iconic swimmer of all time.
Maybe
Yeah.
one of the most iconic Olympians of all
Yeah.
time.
Oh, for
I mean,
sure.
honestly,
For sure.
So,
Okay, so
Devastating.
we still got about a few minutes before we go to break. Avery, since you had just had that headache, I'll let you sit back and relax this term. We'll go play the normal.
How many
way.
people commented that on the thing? Did they?
I don't know.
oh, let's see in the stream.
Phelps. Someone that said Mike Tyson. No, you said okay.
Jacob had Phelps at 9:34 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
About that same time.
Yep.
Yeah, you have been working on this for a week, Andrew.
Listen, nerds.
Amazing
No, I have
Daniel.
not.
Amazing Daniel. That's Usain Bolt, which that would have been. That's a good guess as well. Okay. Do you have one, Avery?
Do I have one?
Yeah. You have a person?
I do. I do.
Okay. So we'll play the OG way. Shane, this is the term where you can play. Can you listen?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. All right. Don't ask the same question twice, or I'm kicking you out.
Okay.
All
Ravi,
right.
go ahead. You
We
kick
ready?
us off.
Go.
Is it a male?
Nope.
All right. We have a female.
Why can't I ask that question? Does this person currently play a sport?
They do.
Okay. Current athlete. Good.
Is it a professional sport?
It is.
Is it an Olympic sport?
It is.
Okay. There was a pause there, so I don't think we primarily think of
That's-
them as the Olympics.
That's a great question. I should have thought of Olympic sport. Wow.
I only thought that because of Phelps.
Currently play female. Do they play soccer?
They do.
Oh, well, there you go, guys. 2 guesses. Feel free. You're welcome.
Shano?
I'm gonna pass because I don't know any of the names. I'm just get right to it. We only got a minute here.
Is it Alex Morgan?
No.
I like how she kind of like laughed. Like, no.
No.
Currently plays.
Because they just had a bunch of the really famous ones retire.
I don't want to say.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. That's why I wanted to pass.
No.
Sure, Shane.
Andrew, no.
They're still currently playing.
The only
you said,
person
yes?
on my mind is Carly Lloyd, but I don't think she plays anymore.
She
So I'm
does
going to say
not.
Carly Lloyd.
Nope. She retired 2 years ago. Year and a half ago.
Is it Megan?
Nope.
She retired as well, right?
She did.
Technically, though,
But she
she's
just
still
did.
playing.
Yeah, she
right?
just. Yeah, she
'Cause
just
she
did.
plays like
She just
in
finished.
a smaller. Yeah.
It is not. It is. Okay, let's think here. I'm gonna have to look up the U.S. Women's National Team here to get some of the names.
The only other one I know is Julie Ertz.
And she just retired.
I was saying all the ones I know just retired. Like that's what I'm having trouble with here. All right, we're gonna have to have
Take a short break.
a brain trust here, a little brainstorming
Is Abby Wambach still playing?
session. No, she's been retired for a hot minute.
Legend.
We are gonna have to take a little brainstorming session here and come up with.
Do they play
some
for the U.S.
guesses.
Women's National
Yeah.
Team?
Well, yes.
I didn't know. Could have been an international player. We don't know.
And if it was, we would have been.
Yeah, never would have
done
gotten
for.
it. We will continue guessing and playing our Guess Who game right after this on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back.
So here on a Wednesday.
Everybody loves Avery on the show, not me. There's some animosity going on. That's why she's on the other end of the table.
I'm Ravi, Lulla. It's Andrew Rogers, Avarie Howard with us as well. We are in the middle of Avery's Guess Who. We had to collect ourselves, compose ourselves, try and
Yeah,
come
they
up.
try to guess questions off air.
No.
I put it
no,
to
no.
a stop, everyone. Don't
Listen,
worry.
And then she kept giving us the answers.
I was gonna say
Not true.
if you want to give answers off the record, that's not our fault.
I wasn't giving
Avery.
answers off the record.
I mean,
We talked about other players.
I don't know. I found out that she's a striker.
No, you guessed, and I said define striker.
And then I said, did they play the
That's-
striking position? And then you're like,
I think Avery's a little salty that she didn't get Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
It's okay.
and then she comes after us.
Yeah, she's like, Mike, really, you're gonna pick a swimmer? I was like, he's gonna pick one of the most famous people on the planet. So I think that's a reasonable. All right, so I have a guess here. I'm gonna go Alyssa Thompson.
Nope.
Okay.
She's like 15 though.
Is it the Rodman daughter?
No, not Trinity.
That was the only thing I had like on the brain.
We're just gonna get
She's awesome. Though.
going
I
through the
like
roster
Trin.
here. Shane, we skipping you again?
Yeah, skip me.
Sophia Smith.
Ding, ding, ding.
Nice.
Nailed
one.
it.
Nice one.
Guys, they're looking at the roster.
Yeah,
okay?
I am looking at
He
the
cheated.
roster. I am looking at the roster.
I had no clue what my next guess would have been. It probably would have been.
But you guys wouldn't. You guys, I think, you would know who she is if you watched the last Olympics.
I'm like aware of who she is.
Yeah,
it wasn't
she was
a name I was going to be able to come up with.
Yeah, that's like asking me to name like an offensive lineman on a team that I don't normally watch. Like that was just on Sunday Night Football. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
I guess I thought more people watched like when the women's national team played.
So I do, but I also like, and I know when they're like talking about players and when I'm watching the game, I know who it is. I don't have the recall for it that I do with some other stuff.
Okay,
so
that's fair.
We're working
Nice
on
work,
that.
Sophia.
Thank you. I did have to get a little help from the roster.
Also, for everyone out there, Sophia does play the striker position.
She does.
Nailed it.
She plays forward. Let's get that right.
Well, Avery's like, she's one of my favorite players. And I'm
Emerging
like, well,
favorite.
you used to play forward. So
Yeah.
I know that it has to be a striker.
All right. So I've got a person in mind.
Okay.
I have I am ready to go.
I have a tough one planned for you guys next.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'll start it off. Is it a male?
It is.
Shane?
College athlete?
It is not.
What a question.
Actor.
It is.
Great.
Primarily known for television over film.
I would say no, but they've done both.
Wait, what was the question? They usually do film over TV.
Well, he said
Sure.
primarily known for TV over film. I would say no, but they have done both.
Okay.
Is it a comedic actor?
They've done comedic roles, but I don't know that I would primarily qualify them as that.
Okay.
Action movies.
Some, yes.
Are they over the age of 40?
Hold on, I think so. Let me double check. No peeking.
I'm not peeking.
I'm talking to her.
I'm not.
Yes, over the age of 40,
That's how
not by
Avery
much.
got the rock. She was
Not by
peeking.
much.
Do they primarily play the lead role?
Often,
question.
yes. Often.
You said over the age of 40, I'm sorry?
Just barely, yes.
Over 40, primarily the
Mostly
lead role?
lead roles.
Oh wait, did you just ask a question, Shane?
Yeah, there you go.
Mostly lead roles.
Has he ever been in an animated movie?
Good question. Yes, that's not what I would know them. That's not what you would know them for.
Were they in a movie recently in theaters in the last year?
One that you would know in theaters in the last year? No.
Okay.
Would they be, when it comes to pay, would they be a $20+ million person?
I don't know, Shane.
You don't know? Well, you know, like Tom Cruise is, and
I would not put them in the level of like a Tom Cruise.
In the level of getting paid like that.
I don't know what he gets paid, Shane. He is a very famous actor. He is not Tom
He's
Cruise.
over 40. He's a very famous actor. He plays the lead. I mean, he should be getting paid like 20
He's
million.
not. I don't know what he gets paid, Shane. He's not Tom Cruise level of famous.
Okay.
I don't know if this helps or not, but maybe helps me. But like, do they have like an iconic voice?
No, I don't think they're particularly known for their voice.
Okay.
It's not like a Morgan Freeman or a James Earl Jones.
Okay.
So if they're not like Tom Cruise popular. So if I'm like basing it off of like the Seinfeld cast, okay?
Okay.
And Jerry is Tom Cruise. Is this actor like, is he Jason Alexander?
Probably George. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say like
So
George
he's
level.
that level?
Yeah, I think so.
That's my question, Shane.
Does this actor have a current or new movie out right now?
Let's see. No, not currently. No. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay.
Probably, I'll give you probably more popular in the late 2000s to mid 2010s.
Is it Will Smith?
It is not Will Smith, although I do love Will Smith.
Is he married?
Oh, good question. Let's find out here. This might have been a bad choice. Yes, married. Not to someone famous. I mean, that helps sometimes. Not to someone I know, at least.
Okay.
They don't have a Wikipedia link, so I assume they are not famous.
Okay.
They're a normie.
Do they do other things in movies beside acting, like directing or anything like that?
That is not what you would know them for.
Okay.
If they have done any of that, it is like side projects at best.
I can't remember if we. Oh no, we already asked that.
They did get famous pretty young.
Are they in holiday movies?
None that I can think of. I don't want to unequivocally say no, but that's not what you would know them for.
Are they a popular like TV show actor when they are in TV?
The TV show that he came to prominence on a very popular TV show that ran for a pretty long time. We're talking like 130 episodes, a long time.
Wait, sorry, say that again. I missed that.
Okay.
They came to
I have an
prominence on a very popular TV show that ran for like 130 episodes.
Okay.
I may have gone too obscure here.
I have an idea.
I don't think they're that
don't-
obscure, but
I don't know actors well, so I'm going to go with the only one I know from that show.
I think it's Avery's turn for a question. Or is it Shane?
Shane.
Yeah.
So was it a? I want to say it was one of. Man, I don't know. It's not The Rock, like Ken's saying. I'm gonna pass.
It's not the right. So he's looking at the YouTube comments.
Is his first name John?
No, not John.
Or Johnny.
Well, that actually takes my guess off the table. I was thinking The Office.
Oh,
I was
John
thinking
Krasinski? Oh, I do love John Krasinski, but no.
Like he's well known, you're saying?
Yeah, and became famous relatively young. He was pretty young in the TV show that he did. So, like, John Krasinski wouldn't be.
I'm lost.
I'll say I might have gone too deep here. I didn't think it was, but.
Well, yeah, you came up with it.
Do we want some hints?
Potentially. Yeah.
Okay. The show that they were on was late 90s, early 2000s, which I know doesn't help you guys a ton because you're both very young.
The kid from Corey in the House.
Nope. He was in a very prominent superhero movie.
So was he in the Avengers?
No.
Spider-Man.
Not Spider-Man. He was
so lost.
I mean, if you guys want to give up, you can give up.
No, give us a few more.
Was he in Batman?
He was in a Batman movie, yes.
Oh, so it's the Twilight guy.
It is not the Twilight guy. There's been a lot of Batman movies, right?
Well, I mean, that's the guy
Not a
that was
Lautner?
prominent in Twilight during that time period.
What's that?
Lautner? He's not a Lautner. Taylor Lautner?
No, he's not in any Batman movies that I'm aware of.
I don't know.
It's not the Twilight guy.
Is he?
I was like, what?
Does he wear glasses?
Sometimes, but not
Okay.
always.
Yeah. Mood.
Listen, I might have ruined it. I might
What
have
do we
ruined
got?
it.
Just tell us.
It's Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Who?
Do you know who that?
Never would have gotten there. But
Can I see what he
you
looks
know who it
Can I
is?
see what he
I
looks
know
like?
the name. Yeah, never would have gotten there.
From Third Rock.
Yeah, from Third Rock.
Yeah, never would have gotten there.
He played Robin in Dark Knight Rises. All right, I went too
Oh.
deep.
What was the
That's my
TV
bad.
show?
Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah, I know who he is by seeing him.
All right, I went too deep.
But,
That's my bad. That's my bad.
Yeah,
Robbie just wanted to win.
No, listen. I'm taking the L there. That's my bad. That's my fault.
It's okay.
That was a tough one.
Listen, I'm a big Christopher Nolan Batman fan, so he's very prominent to me. He was in the Dark Knight Rises, so maybe he's.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get to mine today. And that one took a lot of time.
Listen, we got 90 seconds. Let's go. Let's crank
All right,
this thing
go ahead.
out.
Go ahead. Just go ahead and start guessing.
Is it a male?
No.
Oh, female athlete.
Yes.
Female athlete.
Serena
Soccer.
Williams.
I'll let you guess afterward. That's fine.
Oh, sorry.
No and no. No to soccer.
Basketball.
No.
Volleyball.
No.
Softball.
Nope.
Swimmer.
Gosh, I feel like this is another Michael Phelps. No.
Tennis.
No.
I already know.
Just keep guessing. Everybody keep firing away.
Golf.
Nope.
I wouldn't know.
WNBA?
Nope.
Female athlete.
Is it a collegiate athlete?
No.
Are they retired?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Recently retired.
Yeah.
Okay. Recently retired athlete that didn't play any. We said soccer, right?
She's like 40 years old.
Soccer?
Yes. No on soccer.
Okay. No on soccer. 40-year-old recently retired athlete. What other sports do we not say?
Seriously. I said Venus.
No.
I said tennis, so no tennis.
No tennis.
Danica Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, Danica Patrick.
So we need to have a conversation here. Is that considered
an athlete?
Yeah.
I'm kind of with Avery here. I
Shane,
kind of
is
think
NASCAR
no.
I have
sport?
such an interesting
Shane, is
how do
NASCAR
you-
a sport?
You try driving, 100.
No, I know, but it's like
50 miles an hour for
just like
4
just
straight
because
hours.
it's physically demanding doesn't mean it's a sport.
talent? You have to be talented and a daredevil.
Like Joey Chestnut does things that are physically demanding. That doesn't mean I think it's a sport.
Yeah.
NASCAR would probably be considered a sport if I looked it up right now.
I think a lot of
It
people
probably
consider it a
it's
sport.
considered
Look
a
at-
sport.
Look
I just
at the
want to
pit crew. The pit
I just wanna
crews,
know
I mean,
why.
that's a sport. I mean, you got to get times down. It's a sport.
Listen,
They're athletes.
being a very
it's a
fast,
challenge is what it is.
Yeah, being a very fast mechanic does not make it a sport, Shane.
NASCAR is the largest spectator sport in America. The end.
Allegedly. More tomorrow.
Where'd you read that?